Chapter 23:20. As soon as the purple-robed woman's voice fell, her body turned into ashes and drifted between Lin Sun's fingers. At the same time, Lin Sun spread his spiritual awareness. In this courtyard, the 19 bloodthirsty green bats scattered in different places all died silently and violently. Then, Lin Sun looked at Yin Huan and flicked his fingers. A stream of warm and vigorous vitality poured into Yin Huan's body. Visible to the naked eye, the scars all over her body recovered at an incredible speed, and her pale and transparent face was full of vitality. Even the chronic disease in her body and the injury of Tao were completely healed. No! After a while, Yin Huan let out a scream of horror and struggled violently, trying to fight desperately. "Miss Yin Huan, it's all right." Lin Sun reached out and pressed her shoulder. His voice, like the sound of Tao, swept away the panic and restlessness in Yin Huan's heart. Her twitching and struggling delicate body quieted down as if she had just woken up from a dream. Her empty and numb eyes recovered little by little, and she was completely sober. Lin Sun, how could it be you? I'm not dreaming, am I?" Looking at Lin Sun's familiar face, Yin Huan's eyes drifted, and she couldn't help wondering if she was dreaming. "It's me. It's all right now." This caused Lin Sun to sigh in his heart. As the disciple of the divine mechanism Taoist sect and the peerless beauty that the seventh prince of the dragon clan, Ao Jintian, adored, he didn't know what sort of tragic calamity she'd experienced after she entered the true dragon world, but she'd actually been reduced to a slave that was at the mercy of others and trampled on at will. This kind of experience was too cruel. After a while, Yin Huan dared to believe all this was true. She couldn't control her inner emotions any longer. She threw herself into Lin Sun's arms and cried hoarsely. Crystal-clear tears fell down like pearls. Lin Sun only asked after she'd vented the emotions in her heart through crying, "What exactly happened after all of you came to the true dragon world all those years ago?" Yin Huan took a deep breath, sat up straight, wiped the red and swollen corners of her eyes, and said, "Brother Lin, I know you're worried about Jing Xian, but you can rest assured that she will be fine." Lin Sun's tightly clenched heart was relieved a lot. Next, Yin Huan told him everything that had happened. Dozens of years ago, when she and Ao Jintian brought Zhao Jingxian to the true dragon world, nothing unexpected happened. Under the arrangements of the true dragon clan, Zhao Jingxian smoothly obtained the qualifications to participate in the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering. However, an unforeseen event took place during the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering, and everything changed. Yin Huan was a human, thus she was not qualified to participate in the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering. She only learned that the information related to the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering had been sealed off. Apart from the authorities of the true dragon tribe, no one knew what had happened during the gathering. What astonished Yin Huan even more was that no matter if it was Zhao Jingxian or Ao Jintian, both of them had actually been directly arranged by the clan to enter the primal beginning dragon pool for closed-door cultivation. As for Yin Huan, she was expelled by the true dragon clan. At this point, Yin Huan revealed a frustrated and furious expression. "At that time, I had no idea what was going on at all before I was captured by the fourth prince of the true dragon clan, Ao Xianfeng, and brought out of the dragon palace. In the end, Ao Xianfeng said that a human woman like me was not worthy of his younger brother, Ao Jintian, and asked me to get lost as far as I could." Yin Huan's expression was filled with shame and indignation. She gritted her teeth and said, "He also said that if I dared to appear again, he would definitely crush my bones and scatter my ashes." Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. He was very clear that Ao Jintian and Yin Huan were truly in love with each other, and their relationship was extremely strong. When he was in the ancient Desolation Realm, Ao Jintian once said that after returning to the true dragon world, he would report the relationship between him and Yin Huan to the elders of the clan, and he would marry Yin Huan no matter what difficulties he encountered. But Yin Huan was expelled by the true dragon clan. Obviously, The True Dragon clan did not intend to agree to this marriage at all. Later, Huan's eyes were filled with pain. Later, she was like a pitiful person abandoned by the world, and she tried every means to find Ao Jintian again. But in the end, it was in vain. Because she was a human, no matter where she went, she would be bullied and suppressed by the beings of various clans. If it wasn't for her cultivation at the ultimate king realm, she would have probably suffered countless misfortunes. Not long ago, she was targeted by a quasi-emperor from the Baxiao imperial clan, one of the 9 great imperial clans, and she was suppressed miserably. After that, she was sold as a commodity to the mysterious Snake clan, and then she was robbed by the bloodthirsty Greenback clan. As soon as she finished speaking, Huan couldn't help but burst into tears. Her days of drifting through the True Dragon dimension during these past few years were simply like a nightmare, and it was practically a destructive blow to her. Lin Sun couldn't restrain the flames of rage in his heart when he heard all this. A dignified Saint King was extremely dazzling and noble in the ancient Desolation realm, and even on the Starry Sky ancient path, she could be said to be an influential figure in a world. But in the True Dragon world, Huan had been injured miserably many times, and she was wantonly bullied and persecuted. All of this, the True Dragon clan absolutely couldn't shirk the responsibility. Similarly, this was related to her identity as a human. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. If I had known this earlier, I wouldn't have asked Jing Xian to come here, although Zhao Jingxian possessed the bloodline of the True Dragon, and her mother was the younger sister of the current patriarch of the True Dragon clan. The blood of the human clan still flowed in her body. How would she be treated in the True Dragon clan now? Miss Huan, do you know the way to the Dragon Palace? Lin Sun asked. Huan shook her head. Brother Lin, the Dragon Palace is the most mysterious place. Without the invitation of the True Dragon clan, even those in the Emperor realm can't enter. Lin Sun was slightly disappointed. He took a deep breath, forcefully restrained his worry for Zhao Jingxian, and said, "This isn't a place to stay for long. I'll take you away first." Huan nodded. Lin Sun took away all the human experts who were imprisoned like Huan, and then left with Huan. Brother Lin, why did you come to the True Dragon world? On the way, Huan couldn't help but ask. Lin Sun said, I'm worried about Jing Xian. With a complicated look in her eyes, Huan sighed faintly. Sister Jing Xian is so lucky to have you as her cultivation companion. Immediately, her face changed slightly, and she said, Brother Lin, the True Dragon clan most rejects marriage with outsiders. If you really have a chance to go to the Dragon Palace this time, you should be prepared. She recalled her humiliating experience of being expelled. Lin Sun narrowed his eyes and said, I understand. After chatting for a while, Lin Sun saw that Huan was sleepy and listless, so he invited her to enter the Endless Tower for meditation. Then he returned to the place where he had agreed with Zhang. The sky was already gray, and the night spread like a tide. Lanterns were lit up everywhere on Jade's Rainbow Isle, causing it to be dazzling and bright as day, and the gorgeous shadows of the lanterns caused the entire isle to seem dreamlike. Lin Sun stood there alone, holding a wine gourd and drinking by himself. His lonely figure was incompatible with the bustling atmosphere nearby. At night, the Green Rainbow Island was even more lively than during the day. All kinds of creatures shuttled through the dense cobweb-like streets, shouting and hawking incessantly. It had been nearly half a month since Lin Sun arrived in the True Dragon world. But what he had seen and heard in this half a month made Lin Sun feel repulsed and uncomfortable, as if his chest was blocked by stones. Human clan was humble and reduced to slaves, slaughtered and trampled at will. What he had seen along the way seemed to prove how miserable the situation of the human clan was. If that was all, it would be fine. But now, knowing the great changes in the All Dragons Immortals meeting and Huan's humiliating experience, Lin Sun couldn't help but suspect that this trip to the True Dragon clan would probably not go smoothly. Lin Sun drank silently, and his black eyes gradually became firm. No matter how bumpy the road ahead was, he would take Jing Xian away this time. Late at night, the unprecedentedly grand auction in the Tianjian Tower finally came to an end. As the finale, Tai Chu, Pan, Bao, Zhong Zhong Zhong, official edict, official Yi Mu Mu Chong, a certain flounder, Huan, Chi Wei Wei, Yin, Chung Song, Yao, jealous, Mu, nipple, brilliant vinegar burial, Miao Wei Mi, Mo, Siuan, long point after settling this matter. And Zheng slumped into his chair as if he had been stripped of all energy, and his heart was filled with unprecedented excitement and agitation. For the first time in his life, he tasted what it meant to be squandered. The monarch weapons were thrown out one after another as if they were worthless, causing quite a stir among the crowd. It was unknown how many people were envious, jealous, and crazy. There was no need to mention how wonderful that feeling was. At this moment, and Zheng still wanted more. In fact, it was also on this night that he and Zheng became completely famous. A quasi-emperor had used dozens of emperor weapons and mountains of treasures and divine materials to obtain the title of Tai Chu, Pan. As for those experts from the Taowu imperial clan, like in Zheng, they were all stunned. They did not dare to believe that Zheng had actually become this rich and overbearing. There were also some people with bad intentions who had planned to snatch the Tai Chu treasure after the auction ended. Pan, raise a flock, frame. However, when they learned that the final winner was a pure-blooded descendant of the Taowu imperial clan, their faces turned green with anger, and they had to give up the idea of robbing. This was the Green Rainbow Island, the territory of the Taowu imperial clan. If Lin participated as an expert from the Cloud Spirit clan, perhaps he could also obtain the Tai Chu treasure in the end. Pan, kill the Chu clan to exchange for the Mei clan. Parrots, sandwiches, QE, spitting beach field. This was also the reason why he chose to ask Zheng for help. Although Lin Sun was standing in the crowd, his divine awareness had been covering the vicinity of the Tianjin Tower, so he had already seen everything. He could not help but feel relieved. Could he obtain the Tai Chu treasure this time? Pan? Not Bandit Meng Xian was stunned. Badgerwood? Disease? After all, this kind of treasure was one of the key divine materials to condense the chaos source tree. But soon, Lin Sun frowned. Chapter 23-21. Uncles, what are you doing? And Zheng had a dumbfounded look on his face. As soon as he came out, he was stopped by two elders of the clan who forcibly took him back to reflecting Rainbow Mountain. You really don't know? His name wasn't Tianshui, one of the 4 martial emperors guarding the Rainbow Reflection Mountain. He frowned with a dignified expression. What happened to me? And Zheng found it increasingly strange. You bought Tai Chu Chu? Pan? Mei Mao Shi Hui Yu Mu Jia Fan Mo Jun Tung Huan Chue Concrete? Dazzling? Why was the situation so dangerous that they were completely defeated? Evil Kai Shijing? Bright and shaky orange Song Yuan. Zheng hesitated. Is there a problem with these treasures? This is a big problem. And Tian Shui said, we just received the news this morning. Is it true? Lu Zan you stir-fried swan and I, swan huang jiao jiao. And Zheng was stunned for a moment before he said, could it be? He guessed a possibility, and his expression changed slightly. You're not that stupid after all. If I'm not mistaken, the treasures you squandered at the Heavenly Mirror Tower today should all be real, right? Wei Wei Danan Tianshui said, of course. Really? Wei Wei tame and graceful? What do you mean by that? Suppressing the emperor and the polymath? In the consort's nunnery? The tail fairy of the pontoon boat, Wash and Tianlin, also looked at Zheng. And Zheng's expression flickered, and just as he was about to say something, a figure appeared out of thin air and said indifferently, I asked him to help. It was Lin Sun. In an instant, and Tianshui and Tianlin narrowed their eyes and stared at Lin Sun. Soon, both of them were surprised. Even with their cultivation, they were unable to identify the person in front of them. May I ask who you are? And Tianshui cupped his fists. His eyes were filled with vigilance. He was extremely suspicious. Is it because the male capital is Zheng? Retribution is wanton and unrestrained, Lin Daoyuan. Lin Sun said casually. In the ancient path of the starry sky, this was a name that could shake any orthodoxy. However, in the true dragon world, This name was extremely unfamiliar. At the very least, this was the first time in Tianshui and the others had heard of it. It would appear that fellow Taoist is not from the Cloud Spirit clan. And Tianshui pondered deeply for a moment before he said, "Of course, all of this isn't important. I'm just curious, why would fellow Taoist use a junior of my clan?" With that, he pointed at Zheng. "You think too much. If it hadn't caused some unnecessary trouble, I wouldn't have asked Zheng to do it for me." After a short pause, he continued, "Can I have a private chat with young friend Zheng?" And Tianshui and Tianlin looked at each other. They couldn't figure out what Lin Sun was thinking, but they nodded in the end. Lin Sun took Zheng, who was confused and in a trance, to the distance. He stretched out his hand and made a prohibition seal to cover this area. Then he said, "Now, you have known my identity. What do you think?" And Zheng smiled bitterly and said, "I'm just a junior. I can't afford to meddle in the affairs of you big shots." As he spoke, he handed a sealed golden jade bottle to Lin Sun. "Senior, is this sealed Tai Chui?" "Pan." Lin Sun took it in his hand and used his spiritual awareness to sense it. Then he nodded and said, "Yes, this is the treasure." And Zheng took a deep breath and cupped his hands. "Senior, this matter has been settled. Please forgive me and let me go." A true immortal that could almost kill a true immortal? A true immortal from the earth? A false immortal from the iliac curtain? Lin Sun thought for a moment and said, "I promise to show you the real power of the seal of Baiyin. I can't break my promise." He stretched out his hand and pointed at Zheng. A brand of great Tao drilled into Zheng's glabella. Boom! And Zheng felt a shock in his sea of consciousness. A seal of Baiyin emerged, exuding a terrifying power. In a trance, he seemed to see that the seal of Tao turned into the figure of the ancestor, stepping on the starry sky and suppressing the world. That was a kind of power Zheng had never seen before. He had never thought that the inheritance of the seal of Baiyin that he had been practicing since he was a child would be so powerful. It could even be described as incredible. A moment later, Zheng was sweating profusely and his eyes were in a trance. He suddenly remembered what Lin Sun had said. "It's not that you made a mistake in your cultivation, but the inheritance you practice is wrong." Was it true? If so, did it mean that there had always been a flaw in his cultivation? And Zheng's mood was agitated, and his state of mind showed signs of wavering. Lin Sun patted him on the shoulder and said, "It's not too late to make up for it. You can fix it if you meditate on it carefully in the future." And Zheng's state of mind calmed down immediately. With a complicated look in his eyes, he bowed and said, "Senior, thank you for your guidance." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked off into the distance with an absent-minded and distracted expression. "What did you do to Zheng?" And Tianshui's face darkened. He noticed that there was something wrong with Zheng's state. Lin Sun smiled and said nothing more. His figure disappeared out of thin air. And Tianlin checked Zheng's body from head to toe. Then he said softly, "I didn't do anything to you. It's just that your state of mind is a little unstable." And Tianshui nodded and said, "Let's go back to Yinghong Mountain first. If that Shui is like you and cultivates the flawed Baiyin seal, she's destined to be unable to become an emperor." Lin Sun watched Zheng's group disappear from afar. He also turned and left, disappearing into the bustling night sky. 7 days later, on Yinghong Mountain, Shui, who was regarded as the pride of the younger generation of the Baiyin emperor clan and possessed the cultivation of a consummate quasi-emperor, Zhu Feng, broke out of seclusion. And Zheng went to look for her as soon as he heard the news. "You said that a true emperor who almost wiped out the Baiyin emperor? Baiyin emperor? Songem? Baiyin? Gamma? Ba? Bai? Danjun?" And Shui couldn't help but be astounded when she heard Zheng's reason for coming here. She was dressed in martial attire, and her soft black hair was just past her ears. Her features were exquisite and pretty, and her thin and slender figure was straight like a spear. Her entire body emitted an overbearing, fierce, and capable aura. "That's right." And Zheng nodded, and Shui sneered. "Such a powerful figure needs the help of a quasi-emperor, Zhu Feng. Who do you think will believe it?" "It's true." and Zheng tried his best to convince Shui to believe him. I always feel that this matter is a little strange. And Shui frowned. It's better not to help. If Lin Daoyuan goes to the True Dragon Clan with evil intentions, won't I be an accomplice? And Zheng was stunned and said, No. What kind of existence is the True Dragon Clan? Who in the world dares to harm them? Don't forget, you said that Lin Daoyuan almost destroyed the True Dragon Clan by an Emperor Ju Feng? Song Kuan killed by an Emperor Ju Feng. And Shui's eyes flashed. Not only me, but also you can't interfere in this matter. Cut off the connection with Lin Daoyuan as soon as possible. Sister, I don't think this senior is a treacherous person. And Zheng hesitated for a moment, and then told the whole story about the guidance he received from Lin Sun without concealing anything. When Shui heard this, she was in disbelief. Is this true? And Zheng looked solemn. I dare not lie about the inheritance of the clan. Can I have a look? And Shui asked. This matter had a great impact on her. For a moment, she was surprised and felt ridiculous, and her mood fluctuated. And Zheng smiled bitterly and pointed to his head. How can I see it in my sea of consciousness? I can only experience it myself. He took a deep breath and said seriously, Sister, I have been comprehending it these days, and I have comprehended some mysteries. Have a look. As he said, his body glowed, and a Swanee seal suddenly appeared in front of him, emitting amazing fluctuations of the Great Way. The Swanee seal on the seal seemed to come to life at any time, which made people tremble. With just a glance, and Shui understood the mystery of this Swanee seal. She couldn't help but change her expression. How much have you comprehended? Less than 1 in 10,000, and Zheng replied. And Shui immediately said, Take me to see him. And Zheng scratched his head and said, But I don't know where that senior is now. Go and find him. And Shui glared at him and said angrily, Forget it. I'll go with you. She couldn't calm down. She was Quasi-Emperor Ju Feng, and she was only one step away from breaking through to the Emperor realm. But all these years, she couldn't comprehend or grasp the opportunity to become a great emperor, so her cultivation had been stagnant. But now, after hearing Zheng's words, and Shui vaguely had a thought in her mind. Perhaps the reason why she couldn't break through was because of the inheritance she cultivated. And Shui, after some time, the big shot of the True Dragon tribe will come personally to give you pointers on how to break through. Why are you going out now? When Shui and Zheng were about to leave, they saw that Tianshui had appeared not far away and was looking at them with a frown. I am going to mark it with Zheng, and Shui said. I have been in closed-door cultivation recently, and I feel quite depressed. Just take it as a walk to relax. And Tianshui's expression softened slightly as he said, Don't feel too pressured. Over the years, not only our by an imperial clan, but even those clans that are ranked among the 9 great imperial clans like us have not been able to prove their Tao and become martial emperors. But don't worry, when the big shot of the True Dragon tribe comes, he will definitely be able to solve this problem for you. And Shui nodded and cupped her hands. Thank you for your advice, uncle. We will go now. Go. And Tianshui waved his hand and watched Shui and Zheng leave together. A complicated expression appeared in his eyes. These young people didn't know that no matter which one of the descendants of the 9 great emperor clans had the opportunity to become a great emperor, without the guidance of the True Dragon tribe, no matter how talented they were destined to never touch the threshold of the great emperor realm. This was a core secret. Among the 9 great emperor clans, only great emperors knew about it. As for the True Dragon bloodline, it was precisely because of this special teaching method that they were able to firmly control the 9 great imperial clans. And Shui, in order to help you become a great emperor, our tribe paid a huge price in exchange for this opportunity from the True Dragon tribe. I only hope that nothing bad happens when you pass the tribulation and become a great emperor. And Tianshui muttered in his heart. P.S. Today's update was brought forward. Goldfish will participate in the Red Carpet live broadcast of the Writer's Year at 5:30 p.m. If you want to see Goldfish in person, you can follow Goldfish's WeChat official account. Chapter 23-22. On the Green Rainbow Island, on a cliff overlooking the sea, Lin Sun woke up for meditation. Lin Sun woke up for meditation. In his sea of consciousness, Taishian Sword Sutra, Sky Sanctioning Sword Sutra, Fuyao Sword Sutra, No Return Gone, and Tao Cutting Sword in an instant had a faint echo and fit with each other. However, it was still too difficult for him to integrate them. The 5 Supreme Sword Manuals were like 5 Supreme Sword Emperors, wanting to completely master their Grand Tao paths and turn them into his own Sword Tao was too difficult. Lin Sun was not in a hurry. The Emperor's Tao was not something that could be achieved overnight. The only thing that surprised Lin Sun was that according to his current cultivation speed, it would not take long for him to reach the perfection of the 2nd level of the Emperor Realm. When he tried to break through the 3rd level of the Emperor Realm, he would encounter the Emperor's Heart Block, which was the first major tribulation on the Emperor Realm. Lin Sun had been thinking about it recently. This tribulation was related to one state of mind, but he had no idea what kind of tribulation he would encounter. He asked Shi in Yellow for advice and got the same answer. Every Emperor Realm would encounter different Emperor's Heart Blocks, so there was nothing to learn from them. While he was thinking, Lin Sun felt something and looked into the distance. Not long after, Zheng and Shue's figures appeared and flew toward them. A faint smile appeared on Lin Sun's lips. When he imparted the secret of the Sutra seal to Zheng, he knew that Shue, who had been preparing for the Emperor Realm all these years, would not sit still after knowing this. This meant that instead of asking Shue for help, it was better to let Shue come to him obediently. "You're here." Lin Sun stood up and did not put on the posture of an Emperor Realm figure. Strictly speaking, he was even younger than Zheng and Shue. "Senior, this is my elder sister." Zheng stepped forward and introduced her respectfully. "Greetings, Senior." Shue cupped her hands and looked at Lin Sun, saying, "I think Senior should have guessed why I'm here. I dare not hide it. Although I can't help you enter the Dragon Palace, I can help you get in touch with the big shots of the True Dragon Tribe." "That's good." Lin Sun nodded. There was no doubt that Shue was an extremely intelligent and straightforward woman, but she had her own standpoint. With a flick of his finger, the profound brand of the Tao Wu seal flashed into the space between Shue's brows. The latter's body stiffened, and then she sat down cross-legged without the slightest hesitation to comprehend it in meditation. After a long time, Shue opened her eyes for meditation. When she looked at Lin Sun again, her clear eyes were filled with awe and disbelief. She finally realized that what Zheng had said was actually true. The inheritance of the Swan Ni Imperial Clan's Swan Ni Imperial Clan had been training in all these years was actually not complete. "Thank you for your guidance, Senior." Shue bowed, and her tone became sincere. "An elder of the True Dragon Clan will arrive at the Emerald Rainbow Isle in around half a month from now. At that time, I'll introduce Senior to him." Lin Sun breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Thank you." "Half a month?" He could wait. "Senior, I have a presumptuous request. How did you master the inheritance of the Swan Ni seal of our clan?" Shue hesitated for a moment, and then braced herself to ask. Zheng was startled and also looked at her. This was also the biggest doubt in his heart, but he didn't have the courage to ask before. Lin Sun said casually, "It's a long story. In short, it can't be stolen from your Swan Ni Imperial Clan." Shue and Zheng looked at each other. Of course, it couldn't be stolen. After all, the inheritance of the Swan Ni Imperial Clan was flawed, but the inheritance of the Swan Ni seal of Lin Daoyuan was complete. Shue took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Senior, can you leave the complete inheritance behind? I believe that our Swan Ni Imperial Clan will be grateful to you and regard you as the supreme benefactor of our clan. Moreover, no matter what requests you have, as long as it's within our power, we will definitely agree." Lin Sun said with a faint smile, "This is not something that a junior like you can decide. If there's a chance in the future, I don't mind doing it, but not now." Shue couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. But she also knew that this was not something a junior like her could meddle in. Lin Sun thought for a moment and said, "Don't tell anyone about this." If I can return from the True Dragon clan, maybe I will talk to the big shots of your Swan and I Imperial clan about this. He didn't want to cause trouble, and he didn't want trouble to come to him. If the old monsters of the Swan and I Imperial clan knew about this, they would definitely use all means to keep him here. Although Shui and Zheng felt strange, they still agreed. After a while, they left in a hurry. Lin Sun stayed where he was. He had finally come to a conclusion about one thing. Master Lu's inheritance of the 9 transformations of Calamity Dragon was not as simple as he thought. I'm afraid this situation is not only in the Swan and I Imperial clan, but also in the Ice Dragon Imperial clan. Diarrhea and Yue, Che Chonglian, Guanbao Muwei Lu Xiao, Xiaomu Bomi, and Tan Zhuangchun. Lin Sun pondered. An incomplete inheritance is unable to allow the younger generation of the Emperor clans to have the chance to become martial emperors. However, since ancient times, the 9 great Emperor clans have never lacked martial emperors. Does this mean that the inheritance of the 9 transformations of Calamity Dragon has always been regarded by the True Dragon bloodline as a means to suppress the 9 Emperor clans? Only with the help of the True Dragon bloodline, the descendants of the 9 Emperor clans who have the potential to become emperors will have the chance to become emperors? If that's the case, it'll be interesting. Thinking of this, Lin Sun smiled. No matter what, these things at least had no impact on him now. Soon, Lin Sun walked toward the bustling market with his hands behind his back. I wonder when I can find the dark parasol divine woods divine soul root and clear turbid star soul sand. A long time ago, Lin Sun had been collecting all kinds of divine woods and materials that could produce the chaos origin tree sapling. However, over the years, he had traveled to countless places, yet he had only managed to collect Fusong, Jinmu, Kunwu, and Yixiang of the 4 great divine trees, 5 colored miraculous soil, and a piece of chaotic life soil. He'd only obtained Primordium a few days ago on Emerald Rainbow Island. Pan? Bo. Presently, he only had the dark parasol divine woods soul root and clear turbid star soul sand before he could produce the chaos origin tree sapling. On the path to the Emperor realm, anyone who could control the chaos origin tree would possess the ability to comprehend and control the quintessence laws of chaos. However, it was extremely difficult to produce a chaos origin tree. At the very least, according to Lin Sun's knowledge, there were only 2 or 3 people that had truly produced a chaos origin tree throughout the countless years of the starry sky. The reason was that the divine woods and materials were too rare. Every single one of them could be said to be precious treasures of legend, and they could only be chanced upon by luck. For example, Lin Sun had obtained the Fusong divine tree's soul root in the ancient Desolation region. But up until now, he was already a peak Emperor realm, yet he was still unable to accomplish this. Unfortunately, Lin Sun's luck seemed to have been used up. In the following days, he'd been constantly walking on Emerald Rainbow Island, yet he didn't see any more divine materials that he required. Bang! On this day, a divine rainbow passageway suddenly appeared in the sky extremely far away from Emerald Rainbow Island, and then a dragon-whiskered turtle that was an entire 30 kilometers in length flashed out from the depths of the passageway, while carrying a dazzling golden palace on its back. At practically the exact same moment, the 4 Emperor Realm experts of the Tao Imperial clan that resided on the island moved out in unison, and they personally headed over to greet the dragon-whiskered turtle. This scene caused an uproar on Emerald Rainbow Island at the first possible moment, because it was the arrival of a great figure from the True Dragon bloodline, and the True Dragon bloodline was the overlord of this world and possessed supreme might. Not to mention a great figure from the True Dragon bloodline. Even an attendant of the True Dragon bloodline that did odd jobs was an existence that no one dared to offend in this world where a myriad of races existed side by side. He's finally here, on the precipice. Lin Sun opened his eyes from his meditation, and his divine sense swept through the sky and instantly sensed the aura of that great figure from the True Dragon clan. A man in a purple robe, with brown eyes and an imposing figure. A person with a cultivation of level 6 Emperor realm. This time, it wasn't just this person who came. Just the retainers that came with him numbered more than 1,000, and all of them had very powerful auras. However, to Lin Sun, apart from this purple-robed man, no one else caught his eye. On that day, news spread that the purple-robed man was an elder of the true dragon bloodline, and his name was Ao Xinglin. His title was Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas. At the same time, Zheng hurried over and invited Lin Sun to Rainbow Reflection Mountain as a guest. In the evening, in a magnificent palace on Rainbow Reflection Mountain, Tian Shui and Tian Lin and the other two old monsters from the Tao Imperial clan personally entertained Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas. During the banquet, toasts were exchanged, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas sat alone at the head of the table. His bearing was dignified, and he vaguely resembled a high and mighty king that was receiving the flattery of his subjects. And Tian Shui and the others did not show any hint of displeasure. All of them were very enthusiastic and revealed a faint sense of humility. Their attitudes were very low, and Tian Shui and the others didn't dare to slight any clansman from the true dragon bloodline, let alone someone as important as Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas. After 3 rounds of wine, Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas finally looked towards Shui, who was sitting not far away. He said calmly, "This is the most dazzling genius of the younger generation in your clan?" And Tian Shui hurriedly said, "Yes," and Shui quickly bowed to Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas. And Shui stood up and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, Lord." Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas acknowledged and looked at Shui. He casually tossed out a golden edict with obscure Tao light, and it landed on the table in front of Shui. "Use your natal blood essence to sign on this edict." His tone was indifferent, as though he was giving alms. At this moment, Shui already knew that if she did this, her fate would be firmly controlled by the true dragon bloodline. If she dared to disobey, this edict would give her the most fatal blow. Chapter 23:23. To put it simply, this golden edict might be able to be exchanged for a path to emperor, but once it was signed, it would be no different from selling one's body. If not for Lin Sun's guidance, Shui might not have been able to refuse to sign such a contract in order to become emperor. But now, she did not want to sign it. Shui, what are you waiting for? A great opportunity to become emperor is right in front of you. Hurry up and sign it. Seeing that Shui did not move for a long time, Tian Shui could not help but feel anxious and urged her, "Can I consider it?" Shui's expression was uncertain as she spoke softly. "Ridiculous." And Tian Lin frowned and said in a low voice, "Shui, do you know how difficult it is to obtain such a precious opportunity?" Shui took a deep breath and said, "This matter concerns my future cultivation. Uncles, please allow me to consider it." Humph! Dragon Emperor Fu Hai, who was sitting in the head, snorted coldly and showed a hint of displeasure. "Little girl, I don't have time to wait for you. If you do not sign it now, I guarantee that you will never have the chance to step onto the path to emperor again." Suddenly, Tian Shui and the other important figures of the Tao Imperial clan panicked. They all spoke up, either to admonish or to urge Shui. However, Shui did not move at all. This caught Tian Shui and the others off guard. They could not help but be flustered and exasperated. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's face started to turn gloomy. To be rejected by such a junior was a challenge to his dignity. He stood up and said indifferently, "Forget it. Just pretend that I have never been here. In the future, your Tao tribe can forget about inviting me here again." He walked towards the exit of the palace. "My lord, please calm down." And Tian Shui and the others hurriedly stood up, apologizing and urging him to stay. However, Dragon Emperor Fu Hai ignored them and left directly. "You little girl, you are simply making trouble." And Tian Shui's face turned ashen as he watched Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's figure disappear. He could not wait to punish Shui severely. "Shui, do you know how much our Tao Imperial clan has paid to invite Dragon Emperor Fu Hai? Now all these sacrifices have been ruined." And Tian Lin was so angry that his beard and hair stood on end. "And because of you, We even angered the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover, causing our entire tribe to be implicated. You are simply too selfish." As they spoke, they rushed out together and chased after Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover in an attempt to make up for their previous mistake. And Shue's pretty face turned pale after being reprimanded. She clenched her fists and stood there alone. Her heart was incomparably sullen and furious. In order to become an emperor, he had to place his fate in the hands of the true dragon bloodline. It was better not to give up such an opportunity. Even without his guidance, I can still achieve the breakthrough. And Shue thought to herself. On the Rainbow Echo Mountain, and Zheng led Lin Sun on the mountain road and transmitted his voice. "Senior, the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover is a big shot. I'll go and report to him later. Sister and Shue will also help to put in a good word for you. She will definitely fight for a chance to meet you." As he was speaking, Lin Sun suddenly raised his head and looked at the top of Rainbow Reflecting Mountain. A huge dragon-whiskered turtle slowly rose into the air. On its back, there was a magnificent palace. It seemed to be planning to leave. At the same time, Lin Sun saw Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover, dressed in a purple robe and wearing a gloomy expression. He stepped into the air and walked towards the dragon-whiskered turtle. As for Tianxue and Tianlin and the other two old monsters, they looked terrified and pleading as they chased after Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover, trying to make him stay. This made Lin Sun instantly realize that something had gone wrong. And Zheng also saw this scene and couldn't help but be stunned. A bad premonition surged in his heart. When he turned his head to look at Lin Sun beside him, he realized that Lin Sun had already disappeared. "Sir, please give face to our tribe and allow us to make up for this mistake." At the top of Rainbow Reflecting Mountain, and Tianxue and the rest begged bitterly. If they let Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover leave in anger, the consequences would be extremely severe. "Don't worry, I won't go so far as to argue with a little girl. However, I'm destined not to come and ask for trouble again in the future." Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover said expressionlessly. Unless what?" And Tianshui's eyes were filled with hope, as though he was grasping at straws. Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover said calmly, "That little girl's talent is not bad. I want her to follow me and be a servant." Servant? That was completely a servant role. Moreover, she had to serve Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover and satisfy his desire for women. And Tianxue and the rest felt their hearts turn cold. And Xue was the most dazzling genius of the younger generation of the Taowu imperial tribe. She was a true Ju Taowu quasi-emperor and the hope of the entire tribe. However, Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover proposed to take her as a servant. This was no longer as simple as a punishment. This was more of a humiliation to Xue and a warning to the Taowu imperial tribe. "What? You're not willing? Then this matter ends here." Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover's eyes were cold as he stepped into the air and left. He was a rank 6 martial emperor of the true dragon bloodline. Now that he had taken the initiative to come to the Taowu imperial tribe, he was humiliated by a little girl. He was extremely angry. He was doing this to protect his own dignity. However, before he could enter the palace on the back of the dragon-whiskered black turtle, an indifferent voice suddenly sounded. "Fellow Taoist, please wait." Just as the voice sounded, Lin Sun's figure appeared out of thin air and blocked Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover's path. Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover frowned when he was suddenly blocked. His face darkened, and he said expressionlessly, "In Tianxue, who is this?" And Tianxue and the rest were also extremely shocked. Why did Lin Daoyuan appear? Before they could speak, Lin Sun said indifferently, "Who I am is not important. What's important is that I have something to discuss with you." Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover's eyes were cold. "Who do you think you are? What makes you think you're qualified to chat with me? If you don't want to die, scram." His voice was cold. This was the first time he had met such a reckless person. Among the tens of thousands of tribes in this world, who dared to speak to him like this? However, this person before him not only blocked his path, but also spoke in a tone that said he was overestimating himself. He was simply tired of living. And Tianxue was just about to speak about what had happened to the true Dragon Imperial tribe when Tianlin, who was beside him, secretly stopped him, and Tian Lin reminded him telepathically, "We cannot interfere in this matter." At the same time, Lin Sun suddenly laughed. His eyes were deep as he said, "Your performance has made my opinion of the true dragon bloodline even worse. You're courting death." Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover slapped out. Boom! The heavens and earth were in chaos, and the clouds exploded. Surging laws of the Great Path interweaved and condensed in that terrifying palm power, releasing a world-destroying aura. A lawless realm being could easily kill an ordinary Emperor realm being with just a casual strike. Its power was unparalleled. As an innate spirit race Emperor of the true dragon tribe, he had an overwhelming advantage over those in the same realm. His terrifying foundation. This was the terror of the true dragon bloodline. At this moment, Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's palm was filled with anger. One could imagine how terrifying its power was. At the very least, when they saw this palm, and Tianshui and the other old monsters felt a suffocating sense of despair. Lin Sun's expression did not change as he similarly reached out with his palm. It was a simple move, but there seemed to be formless power that crushed the palm power easily. Then, he clenched his 5 fingers together and grabbed. Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's wrist was instantly grabbed. He almost did not dare to believe his eyes. He activated all the power in his body to fight back. However, Lin Sun's palm was like a bottomless abyss, engulfing and annihilating all the power that he released. Lin Sun grabbed his wrist tightly and did not move at all. Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's expression changed. He finally realized that something was wrong. At this moment, Lin Sun said calmly, "If you move again, don't blame me for being ruthless." Boom! As he spoke, a tsunami-like power erupted from his palm. It broke through Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's defense power like a flood, surging into his limbs and bones. In an instant, all the power in Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's body was restrained. Lin Sun grabbed his wrist, which prevented him from falling from the void. He was shocked and furious. He opened his mouth to shout, but he could not even make a sound. His face turned green from anger. This, and Tianshui and the others were stunned. Everything happened too quickly. In the blink of an eye, Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover was restrained. They did not even have time to react. Until now, when they saw Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover being held by Lin Sun like a powerless sheep, they were all shocked and shocked. This was an important person of the true dragon bloodline, a dragon emperor. Who in the world dared to disrespect him? Who dared to offend him? But now, such a thing was happening right before their eyes. Bang! Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover was knocked unconscious by Lin Sun and kept. Then, as if nothing had happened, he looked towards Tianshui and the others. These old monsters from the Taowu imperial race all looked wary and wary. They saw Lin Sun as a scourge. In the end, Lin Sun still shook his head. He turned and walked towards the dragon whiskered turtle in the distance. This was Dragon Emperor of the Sea cover's mount. "Roar!" the dragon whiskered turtle roared. "How dare you be so rude to my master? No matter who you are, what status and cultivation you have, no one in this world can save you." Bang! Lin Sun punched through the air. The dragon whiskered turtle's head was almost smashed. It was in so much pain that it let out a heart-wrenching scream. "If you don't listen to me, I'll stew you," Lin Sun said as he arrived at the palace that the dragon whiskered turtle was carrying. There were thousands of retainers around the magnificent palace. There were men and women. When Lin Sun arrived, they still didn't understand what had happened. Lin Sun couldn't be bothered to say anything. He waved his sleeve and a sky full of Taoist light surged out. He suppressed and knocked these retainers out one by one. After that, he walked directly into the hall, and he didn't even look back as he spoke. "Old turtle, leave Jade Rainbow, I'll first. If you dare to play any tricks, then I guarantee that both you and your lord will die a horrible death. If you don't believe me, then you can feel free to give it a try." The dragon whiskered turtle hesitated for a moment and finally gave in. It let out a sorrowful and angry roar. Its huge body rose into the sky and moved towards the distance of the green rainbow island. P.S. From today until Goldfish returns home, try to update twice every day at noon. Chapter 23-24. Watching the dragon-whiskered tortoise carrying the palace and Lin Sun away, and Tian Shui and the other old monsters came to their senses. Lin Daoyuan kidnapped Dragon Emperor Fu Hai. What is he trying to do? Someone was shocked. He almost slaughtered the Zhanhou Imperial clan, and now he's on bad terms with a big shot of the Zhanhou clan. He's playing with fire. Someone was bewildered. This happened on the Green Rainbow Island of our Taowu clan. If the Zhanhou clan knows about it, we'll be implicated too. Someone looked worried. That senior left just like that. And Zheng was also in a trance when he saw this scene. Only he knew that Lin Sun was going to the Dragon Palace. But he didn't expect that Lin Sun would use such a violent method. And Shui, do you know what you've done? And Tian Shui and Tian Lin and the other old monsters returned to the hall. When they saw Shui, they were all furious. In their opinion, what happened today was completely caused by Shui. And Shui suddenly asked, "Uncle, did you also sign the Golden Decree when you became a martial monarch?" And Tian Shui and the others looked at each other and snorted. Obviously, they all agreed. Handing your fate to others in exchange for a chance to become an emperor. No wonder you're so afraid of the Zhanhou clan. And Shui sighed softly. And Shui, you don't know how to repent. How dare you mock us? And Tian Shui and the others looked terrible. They thought Shui was mocking them. I'm not mocking you. I'm just stating the facts. If your fate is controlled by others, so what if you become an emperor? You still have to be submissive to the Zhanhou clan. And Shui took a deep breath and said, "But I'm different. I don't have to sign the decree to become an emperor." And Tian Shui laughed in anger. Ignorant. It is not only our Mowgli clan. Regardless of who among the 9 great imperial clans wishes to become martial emperors, they will need the help of the true dragon lineage. Only by signing the origin talisman will the true dragon lineage lend a hand. This situation has existed since Ming Luo Dragon Emperor 100,000 years ago. No one has been able to change it. No one can break this rule. Even you can't. As he finished speaking, and Tian Shui's voice carried resentment. If they weren't forced, how could they have been willing to hand their fates over to another? After a moment of silence, and Shui asked, "What exactly is the help of the true dragon?" And Tian Shui said coldly, "It's a forbidden inheritance that belongs to the true dragon bloodline. It's called the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon, and it's targeted at the supreme inheritance of the 9 great imperial clans. This forbidden inheritance has always been controlled by the clan leader of the true dragon bloodline. It's also because of this inheritance that the true dragon bloodline is able to control and command the 9 great imperial clans until now. Do you understand now?" And Shui was stunned. She immediately realized that Senior Lin Daoyuan might be the one who had inherited the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon. However, how could such a taboo inheritance be controlled by someone other than the clan leader of the True Dragon tribe? Now, do you know how much trouble you've caused? Now, not only did you lose the chance to become a martial emperor, even our Swanee clan has offended the True Dragon clan. At this point, and Tian Shui was so angry that his chest heaved up and down. If your father and the elders of the clan find out about this, you will definitely be in serious trouble. The other old monsters' faces were also frosty, and they were full of depression. "Uncles, look at this." Suddenly, Shui took a deep breath and formed a Swanee seal. The Swanee seal gave off dazzling Taoist light, and the shadow of Swanee seal seemed to appear, trampling through the starry sky and stirring up the heavens. At first, Tian Shui and the others did not understand what Shui meant. However, after staring at the Swanee seal for a while, they were all stunned. How could they not recognize that it was a complete Swanee seal with a core ultimacy? "You? How could you? This is impossible." And Tian Shui and the others were a little confused. They asked one after another, "What on earth is going on?" And Shui thought to herself, "Senior Lin, you've already left. It's destined that no more trouble will come to you. I hope you can understand." Then, she gritted her teeth and told them how she and Zheng had received guidance from Lin Sun. After learning all this, and Tian Shui and the others almost did not dare to believe their ears. After a while, they called in Zheng to them and asked him to show them the profoundness of the Swanee seal. Only then did they finally dare to believe that all of this was true. Does this mean that Lin Daoyuan has mastered the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon? And Tian Shui gasped. He knew all too well how shocking this fact was. For example, the cultivators of the 9 great imperial clans were all shackled by an invisible chain that prevented them from touching the threshold of becoming emperor. The 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon that was controlled by the clan leader of the True Dragon clan was like a key that could unlock the shackles on the 9 great imperial clans. Originally, this key had been controlled by the clan leader of the True Dragon bloodline for 100,000 years. If the cultivators of the 9 great imperial clans wanted to become emperors, they could only obey and hand their fate over to the True Dragon bloodline. But now, this key was no longer unique. Another key had appeared in the hands of a cultivator who was completely unrelated to the True Dragon bloodline. This also meant that as long as the 9 great imperial clans acted and seized this key, they would be able to completely solve the problem of the shackles on them. At that time, who would be stupid enough to hand their fate over to the True Dragon bloodline? This is a chance to change the fate of the clan. And Tian Shui was so excited that his breathing was heavy and his limbs were trembling. The other old monsters were the same. They might not be able to control their own fate in this lifetime, but as long as they seized this opportunity, the next generation of the clan could completely break the shackles. After a while, and Tian Shui calmed down and could not help but say in annoyance, "Sure, why didn't you say something so important earlier? If I had known this would happen, I would have done everything I could to make Lin Daoyuan stay and treat him as the most distinguished guest." The other old monsters were also helpless, and Shui said in a low voice, "It's not that I didn't want to say it, but that senior didn't allow it. He had already guessed that once he said it, it would definitely cause a lot of trouble." And Tian Shui said angrily, "Did you think that we would rob him?" And Shui said seriously, "If that senior doesn't agree, will you hold back?" And Tian Shui and the others looked at each other. In the end, they smiled bitterly and sighed. Indeed, when faced with an opportunity that could change the fate of their entire race, they might indeed be unable to resist doing this. And Shui hurriedly said, "But don't worry, uncles. That senior said that if he does, he will not be able to do anything. Now that I've successfully returned from the True Dragon bloodline, I might be able to discuss this matter with the higher-ups of our clan." And Tian Shui and the others immediately perked up. However, at the thought of how Lin Sun had dared to kidnap the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover, and Tian Shui and the rest could not help but feel depressed. Even if Lin Daoyuan could reach the Dragon Palace this time, how could he walk out smoothly? No matter what, we must report this matter to the Patriarch immediately. And Tian Shui made a decision. If possible, it would be best to let the entire 9 great imperial clans know about this. Let them know that Lin Daoyuan is someone who can change the fate of the 9 great imperial clans. If anything happens to him, this opportunity will be completely gone. After pausing for a moment, his eyes flickered and he said in a low voice, "In this way, the 9 great imperial clans might not be able to help much, but they will definitely not watch Lin Daoyuan be killed by the True Dragon bloodline." Everyone nodded to themselves. Over the countless years, many clansmen from the 9 great imperial clans have been dispatched to the Dragon Palace to serve as guards and servants. If Lin Daoyuan met with any mishap in the Dragon Palace, perhaps the 9 great imperial clans could mobilize their clansmen to help him in the Dragon Palace. In that case, as long as he survived and could walk out of the Dragon Palace successfully, he would definitely be grateful to the 9 great imperial clans for saving him. Of course, this was all based on the premise that Lin Daoyuan really had a chance to enter the Dragon Palace. This matter must be done as soon as possible. I believe that after the other imperial clans learn of this matter, they will definitely make the same decision as our Tao clan. However, this matter cannot be known by too many clansmen. Otherwise, if the True Dragon bloodline were to learn of it, we 9 great imperial clans will definitely be dealt a heavy blow. And Tian Shui ordered, On this day, and Tianlin brought and Shui along as they left Jade Rainbow, all hastily, and they returned to the Taowu clan to take action. After learning all of this, the higher-ups of the Taowu race made a unanimous decision without hesitation. No matter what, they couldn't let this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity slip by. Soon, the upper echelons of the Taowu clan personally set out, heading to the Ice Dragon, Fu Hu, Pu Lao, Chionyo, Yazi, and the other emperor clans. Although this opportunity was tempting, it involved a taboo inheritance like the 9 transformations of the Tribulation Dragon. Their Taowu clan couldn't handle it alone, so they had to unite more forces. If the 9 great imperial clans were able to join hands, it would undoubtedly be the best situation. In the following period of time, all kinds of good news began to spread to the Meng imperial clan in succession. The Ice Dragon imperial clan has agreed to the alliance. The Paleo imperial clan has agreed to the alliance. The Basha imperial clan has agreed to. In the end, the other 8 great imperial clans all clearly expressed that they would join hands with the Taowu clan in this matter. They must firmly grasp this excellent opportunity. At this point, the 9 great imperial clans that had always been subordinate to the true dragon bloodline for the past 100,000 years had quietly and secretly formed a close alliance. And all of this was caused by Lin Sun's appearance. Lin Sun probably didn't expect that because of the 9 transformations of the Tribulation Dragon, the 9 great imperial clans would instead have some ideas. Some ideas related to changing the fate of their clans. Like a lightly flapping butterfly's wings, it inadvertently created a turbulent storm that was destined to affect the entire situation of the world. Chapter 23-25. In the sky above the turbulent sea, the dragon-whiskered black tortoise was shivering and shrinking in uneasiness. On its back, in the palace, the atmosphere was depressing. Lin Sun sat on the main seat and looked down at Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea was fuming with rage. His face turned green, and he looked like he wanted to skin Lin Sun alive. I just want to know how to get to the Dragon Palace. Why are you so angry? Could it be that you're used to being high up all these years? Is it hard for you to accept that you were suddenly thrown down to the mortal world? Lin Sun said casually, "Let me put it this way. If not for some reason, do you really think I will waste my breath on you? I will just search your soul." Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea's eyes were filled with rage and hatred. He said hoarsely, "I am a true dragon. How can I lower my head like this? If you want to kill me, just do it. But I have to tell you that whoever offends the true dragon bloodline will be exterminated." Exterminated. Just 2 words, but the coldness in them was enough to chill the hearts of all the races in the world. This was not nonsense. With the supreme, dominating aura of the true dragon bloodline, they did have such a foundation. Unfortunately, it was useless against Lin Sun. He got up and came before Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea. "I will give you one last chance. Don't force me to use force." His calm voice was filled with an inviolable tone. Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea couldn't help but mock. "Do it if you dare." Lin Sun nodded and said, "Yellow, haven't you always wanted to taste the real dragon's meat? I'll leave this old worm to you." As he spoke, he released Big Yellow from the Tower of Endless. Hee. Big Yellow's eyes lit up when he saw Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea. He laughed sinisterly and excitedly, saliva dripping from his mouth. Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea was stunned and then terrified. He could sense that this Big Yellow was extremely terrifying and had a deadly, dangerous aura. "What do you want to do?" Dragon Emperor Shrouding Sea gritted his teeth, and his attitude was shaken. Big Yellow was instantly unhappy. As a noble emperor of the true dragon race, how can you be a coward? Come. Show me your backbone. You would rather die than submit. It was still waiting to eat dragon meat and taste the dragon's soup. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's expression kept changing. Anger and humiliation surged in his heart. Ever since he started cultivating, this was the first time he had suffered such humiliation. He had lost all his face and dignity. Now he was even being treated as a meal by a dog. "I only want to know 3 things. As long as you answer truthfully, I promise I won't make things too difficult for you. Lin Sun said, let's talk about the first thing first. What happened at the 10,000 Dragons Immortals meeting that year? Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's expression changed abruptly as he said warily, this is a secret of my true dragon race. Why do you want to know about this? Lin Sun said, I'm asking you. Huh. Big Yellow slapped the back of Dragon Emperor Shroud's head. Old worm, if you don't cooperate obediently, do you believe that I will dig out your dragon liver? As it spoke, sparkling and translucent saliva dripped from its mouth. Dragon liver. That was the essence of heaven and earth. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai saw stars from a slap. Looking at Big Yellow's drooling face, he was so embarrassed and furious that he wanted to fight this yellow dog to the death. But in the end, he controlled himself and said, I have nothing to say about this. Even if you search my soul, it is destined to be futile. His face was full of determination. Lin Sun frowned. Obviously, the meaning behind Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's words was very clear. If his soul was really searched, he had a way to stop Lin Sun from getting the answer he wanted. An incident that occurred during the All-Thousand Dragons Immortal Gathering had caused a 6th-level martial emperor to be unwilling to divulge the truth even if he had to die. It was obvious that this incident was no small matter. Do you want me to teach this old worm a lesson? Big Yellow gritted his teeth at the side and was tempted to make a move. Lin Sun shook his head and asked again, where is the Dragon Palace? This time, Dragon Emperor Fu Hai only hesitated for a moment before he gritted his teeth and said, without the support of the strong cultivators of my tribe, even if you know the location of our ancestral land, you are destined to be unable to enter. After a pause, his expression turned cold as he stared at Lin Sun. Of course, if you really have the guts to go there, I don't mind telling you. In this world, who didn't know that the Dragon Palace was the place where the bloodline of the true dragons resided? Who would dare to barge in? Even if it was an Emperor Realm existence, he would definitely not be able to return. Speak. Lin Sun didn't think much and asked directly. The land of the Dragon Palace was destined to be a real dragon's pool and tiger's den. It was incomparably dangerous and scary, but Lin Sun had a reason to go. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai was silent for a moment before he said, I can lead the way for you. Slap. Big Yellow slapped the back of his head again and said to Lin Sun, this old thing is not obedient. If he leads the way, once we enter the Dragon Palace, there will definitely be many changes. In my opinion, we should just search his soul directly. Let him lead the way. Lin Sun sighed in his heart. At present, he still couldn't judge whether Zhao Jingxuan's situation was good or bad. If he rashly killed an important person in the clan who was related to her by blood, it would probably be inappropriate. He took a deep breath and asked the third thing. Recently, did a woman named Star Destroyer come to the bloodline of the true dragons? Dragon Emperor Fu Hai was stunned. Who is this woman? Lin Sun said. She came from the other side of the starry sky. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's pupil shrank, and he immediately shook his head. I can tell you clearly that this Star Destroyer didn't come to the Dragon Palace. Lin Sun and Big Yellow looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. According to what second senior brother said, this Star Destroyer had already taken action and came to the Dragon World. But why didn't she go to the territory of the true dragons until now? However, this was also good news. As long as Star Destroyer didn't come, it meant that she hadn't obtained the ancestral dragon blood. It was destined that she wouldn't be able to recover the nameless Supreme Emperor who was only left with a remnant soul. Since things have come to this, may I ask who you are and why you insist on going to the Dragon Palace of my tribe? Dragon Emperor Fu Hai suddenly asked. He was really puzzled. In the dragon world, which strong cultivator dared to be so bold? Wasn't he afraid of being exterminated? But this man and dog in front of him seemed to have no scruples. This made Dragon Emperor Fu Hai feel that it was unbelievable. My name is Lin Sun. Lin Sun's heart shook. When he said his name, he stared closely at Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's expression. As expected, hearing this name, Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's pupils shrank and his expression changed. He seemed to be in disbelief. Without Lin Sun asking, he already cried out, "This is impossible. Many years ago, my tribe has already sunk the path to the starry sky, ancient path. The path of cultivation has been cut off forever. How can you still reach it?" Lin Sun's heart shook when he heard this. He suddenly grabbed Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's neck and lifted him up. His eyes were terrifyingly cold, and he said word by word, "You cut off the path between the dragon world and the starry sky ancient path just to prevent me from finding it?" At this moment, Big Yellow also realized that something was wrong. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's neck was being grabbed, and he found it difficult to breathe. He also realized that he had just revealed a secret that he should not have. But he did not panic. Instead, he laughed hideously and said, "Lin Sun, haha, you are that human bastard who tarnished the dragon lady of my tribe. Where's Lu Boya? Why didn't that old bastard come with you?" Bang! Lin Sun threw him to the ground and said with a gloomy expression, "It seems that the true dragon bloodline has long known of my existence. And you even see me as an enemy." At this moment, the result that he was most unwilling to see had finally been confirmed. The true dragon bloodline was filled with hostility towards Lin Sun, and this was because of the matter between him and Jing Xian. Lin Sun thought of Yin Huan, who had been humiliated and chased away by the fourth prince of the true dragon bloodline, Ao Xianfeng. For a moment, his mood became heavy. He knew that from this moment on, he had to prepare for the worst. Should I smash this old worm and extract his spirit? Big Yellow also sensed that something was wrong with Lin Sun's mood. His tone also became murderous. "Ha ha ha! If you kill me, you will only die more miserably." Dragon Emperor Fu Hai laughed hideously. Lin Sun, you really shouldn't have come. Do you know that from the moment the all-dragon immortal gathering ended, the person that the true dragon bloodline wants to kill the most is you, human bastard? If not because of some reason, my tribe would have long charged to the starry ancient path and torn you into pieces. You old bastard, you are already in such a situation and still so arrogant. You are courting death. Big Yellow was so angry that he directly raised his claws and slapped Dragon Emperor Fu Hai. The slaps were crisp and clear. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's face was swollen, blood spurted from his mouth and nose, and his teeth fell off. Even his mind was in a daze. At this moment, Lin Sun had already guessed something. With a cold expression, he said, "In that case, the huge change that happened at the All-Dragon Immortal Gathering has something to do with Jing Xian?" Dragon Emperor Fu Hai suddenly shut his mouth and only sneered. "Do you want to know?" It was as if I just don't want to tell you. Lin Sun was silent for a moment and completely calmed himself down. Then he said coldly, "It doesn't matter if you don't say. Why go to the Dragon Palace? Everything will be revealed. You are courting death. I can't wait for you to go and die." Dragon Emperor Fu Hai laughed hoarsely. His face was red and swollen, and his hair was disheveled. He looked a little crazy. "Are you really not going to kill this old bastard?" Big Yellow couldn't help but ask. "Let him lead the way." Lin Sun took a deep breath and made a decision. "Big Yellow, prepare yourself with Shi and Xia Ji. After entering the Dragon Palace, there might be a conflict." Big Yellow nodded. Although he was extremely arrogant, he also knew that this trip would be accompanied by great danger. He had to make some preparations in advance. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai was still sneering. Since ancient times, no one could shake the Dragon Palace. To him, Lin Sun and the others were like moths flying into a flame. They were courting death. Not long after, the huge dragon-whiskered black tortoise flew into the sky and shifted towards the distant ocean. Gradually, it disappeared from the world. P.S. First day of the month. Please guarantee the monthly ticket. Chapter 23-26. 3 days later, the dragon-whiskered black tortoise passed through dozens of space barriers and traveled tens of thousands of kilometers. Eventually, it reached a clear, peaceful, and tranquil ocean. The boundless ocean was enshrouded in strands of chaotic aura, and even the surface of the ocean was covered in a rain of auspicious light that was like mist and mist. This was completely different from the other seas of the East Sea. It was filled with a sacred aura. In the distance, there was an ancient stone tablet that was thousands of feet tall. It stood on the surface of the sea, and its bottom was submerged in the seawater, so it could not be seen. The stone tablet was ancient and suffused with the aura of the vicissitudes of time. 2 words were inscribed on it, with the primitive characters of the dragon clan, sea calming. The dragon whiskered black, tortoise stopped. In the palace, Lin Sun saw this scene from a distance and nodded secretly. He had heard from Injung that the entrance to the dragon palace was located on the surface of a sea where a sea calming monument stood. "How can I get in?" Lin Sun asked. At the side, Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's expression was unsettled. "Of course, I will bring him along. Otherwise, no matter who it is, as long as he is not a member of my true dragon bloodline, it is destined that he will not be able to enter." "Not necessarily." Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. "As long as I wait here, sooner or later I will catch the real dragon coming out of the dragon palace." Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's expression changed slightly. "What are you trying to do?" Bang! Big Yellow attacked, and with a slap, Dragon Emperor Fu Hai fainted. He laid on the ground softly. "Are you really not going to kill them?" Big Yellow swallowed its saliva. Such an important figure must have left behind some sort of life soul lamp in the clan. Once he dies, it will definitely alarm the clan. Lin Sun said casually, "If we can return smoothly this time, we can make a pot of dragon meat to eat." Big Yellow immediately nodded. "You're right." Next, Lin Sun took action. In just a short while, he had collected Dragon Emperor Shroud of the Seas and his entourage, imprisoning them within the Tower of Endless. In the end, even the huge dragon whiskered turtle was put away by Lin Sun. "Big Yellow, you also hide in the Tower of Endless for the time being. After I sneak into the Dragon Palace, you can take action if the situation is not right," Lin Sun warned. Of course, Big Yellow had no objections. Soon, only Lin Sun was left in this tranquil and peaceful sea. He waited there alone. According to the information Lin Sun had learned, there were 49 entrances to the Dragon Palace, and there was a sea calming tablet near each entrance. Rumor had it that the 49 sea calming steels were the ultimate treasures of the true dragon bloodline. They had been suppressing the forbidden zone for life under the East Sea, allowing countless living beings to walk safely on the vast East Sea for countless years. The most mysterious Dragon Palace in the hearts of all the clans in the world was located in the core area covered by the 49 sea quelling tablets. It was a marvelous secret realm. The sea area where Lin was now was one of the 49 entrances to the Dragon Palace, which was the exclusive access route for the bigwigs of the Dragon Palace. At the same time, Lin Sun already knew that the true dragon bloodline was extremely profound. Such a congenital spirit clan stood above all other spirits and had unimaginably terrifying talents. If one were to make a strict comparison, then the might of the true dragon bloodline was sufficient to rival the 6 great Tao courts of the primordial world and the 3 great giants of the dark world. In the true dragon world, the true dragon bloodline was the only ruler. Needless to say, entering the Dragon Palace was bound to be extremely dangerous. However, Lin Sun did not intend to force his way in, and he had made all kinds of preparations on his way here. What on earth happened at the 10,000 Dragons Immortals meeting, and why was that accident caused by Jing Xian? The bloodline of the true dragon hates me so much that they're even worried that I'll come looking for them. They didn't hesitate to sink the path leading to the starry sky, ancient path. Is it really just because of my relationship with Jing Xian? Lin Sun thought in silence. Splash, after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the sea near the distant sea calming steel tumbled and a huge portal emerged, for which a group of figures walked out. The leader was a man in a bright yellow dragon robe and a feather crown, exuding a kind of arrogance that belonged to the true dragon bloodline. The dragon robe man was followed by a group of retainers, both men and women. Obviously, they were not the descendants of the true dragon, but their auras were more amazing than the others. You are from the true Ho clan? The dragon-robed man saw Lin Sun from afar. He was stunned at first, and then he recognized the aura of the true Ho clan from Lin Sun. Of course, this was Lin Sun's disguise. He calmly cupped his hands. "Child, you have sharp eyes. I am Ho Tianxing of the true Ho clan, and I have come to visit you for something. The dragon-robed man nodded reservedly and said, Which elder of my clan sent you here? Only the big shots of the true dragon bloodline could reach this sea area, which made him subconsciously think that Lin Sun had a relationship with an elder. Lin Sun took out a purple token carved with a dragon-shaped totem and said, I am here under the order of the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover. This is the token. As he spoke, he handed the token across the air. The dragon-robed man checked it and nodded. Yes, this is the token of my sixth uncle. What are you here for this time? Lin Sun said without hesitation. I want to visit the seventh prince, Ao Jintian. The dragon-robed man frowned. You want to see my seventh brother? Lin Sun cupped his hands and said, I hope child can help me. The dragon-robed man was slightly puzzled. Didn't sixth uncle tell you that my seventh brother has been grounded a long time ago? Not to mention meeting guests. He can't even take a step out of his house. Lin Sun's heart trembled, but he said, The Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover only said that I can go to the Dragon Palace to visit the seventh prince with his token. As for other matters, I really don't know. The dragon-robed man pondered and said, Forget it. Since you have sixth uncle's token, I won't make things difficult for you. I'll bring you to see my seventh brother right now. Lin Sun immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he could sneak into the Dragon Palace and contact Ao Jintian, then many things could be revealed. A retainer could not help but remind. Fourth prince, are we still going to? Before he finished speaking, the dragon-robed man interrupted. There's no hurry. It won't be too late to set off after I send this friend from the true Ho clan to my seventh brother's residence. As he spoke, he turned around and took out a fiery red jade token, which he pointed at the sea calming steel. Buzz! The sea roiled, and a vortex door appeared. Let's go. The dragon-robed man led the way. Lin Sun glanced at his back and followed. He thought to himself, Fourth prince? It seems that this guy is Ao who expelled Yin Huan from the Dragon Palace. Xianfeng? Lin Sun did not say anything. He followed Ao, Xianfeng, and the others obediently and entered the vortex door. When Lin Sun's vision became clear, he entered a secret realm. It was vast and boundless, and the world was filled with a thick aura of chaos ancestral root. At the same time, there were all kinds of vigorous dragon chi that turned into auspicious clouds and rays of light, spreading over the sky. It was magnificent and brilliant. On the ground, the mountains, rivers, grass, and trees were all extremely huge, and the soil was filled with abundant vitality. As he breathed casually, his mouth and nose were filled with pure and surging heaven and earth yuan chi, which made him feel relaxed and happy. It was as if he was in the legendary immortal land. Lin Sun was keenly aware that Ao Xuanfeng's eyes were looking at him intentionally or unintentionally. He immediately sighed with emotion. Is this the Dragon Palace world? It's really a first-class blessed place in the world. Ao Xianfeng smiled with undisguised pride and said, It's no exaggeration to say that in the whole world, perhaps only the place where the immortal Emperor clan lives on the other side of the starry sky can compare with our Dragon Palace. As he spoke, he took the lead to move forward. Along the way, they saw vast mountains and rivers, verdant fields, and sometimes flocks of lawn and spirit birds flew in the sky, sprinkling a string of clear and crisp cries. On the ground, auspicious spirit beasts could be seen everywhere. Lin Sun had to admit that the Dragon Palace world was really magical and completely different from what he had imagined. In his divine awareness, he sensed countless terrifying auras along the way, distributed in different territories. Some lurked in the abyss, some perched on the cliff, and some lay quietly under the lake. There was no doubt that those terrifying auras belonged to the tyrannical existences of the true dragon clan, living in different territories. At the same time, Lin Sun also noticed that there were many creatures of other clans in the Dragon Palace world, all of whom were either handsome and beautiful or had strong enough auras. Lin Sun even saw creatures of the 9 great emperor clans, such as Tao Wu, Bing Wu, Pu Lao, Yazi, and Chao Feng. However, these beings from the 10,000 races all served as servants, guards, stewards, lackeys, and so on. All the clans in the world respect our true dragon bloodline. Those who can be selected to serve in the Dragon Palace world are the best in their respective clans. Ordinary people are not qualified to enter this place. Ao Xianfeng said leisurely with the attitude of a monarch, regarding all the creatures in the world as his subjects. Lin Sun took the opportunity to ask, "Child, are there any Emperor Realm existences serving in the Dragon Palace world?" "Of course." Ao Xianfeng smiled reservedly. "For example, some Emperor Realm existences of the 9 great Emperor clans will be employed as elders of our clan." One of the retainers said flatteringly, "Friend, you might not know this, but there are 3 Emperor Realm revered elders following the 4th prince. Just like us, they are loyal to the 4th prince and obey his every command." Lin Sun gasped in surprise. Of course, half of it was feigned, and the other half was from the bottom of his heart. As far as he knew, there were 9 princes and 4 princesses among the lineal descendants of the true dragon bloodline. The 4th prince alone had 3 Emperor Realm practitioners as retainers. How many Emperor Realm practitioners were there in the whole true dragon bloodline? In addition, there was no shortage of terrifying existences among the big shots of the true dragon bloodline. In this way, one could see some clues about the terrifying foundation of the true dragon bloodline. Chapter 23-27. As they spoke, a grand and precipitous black-colored mountain quickly appeared in the distance. It rose and fell continuously, and the boundlessly enormous mountain was covered in numerous blood-colored chains of the Grand Tao that were thick like buckets. They hung down like a waterfall, and they were suffused with terrifying fluctuations of restrictions. This is the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. All clansmen who have committed grave mistakes will be imprisoned here, grounded here, or suppressed here. Ao Xianfeng said indifferently. Ao Xianfeng spoke indifferently. All those years ago, 7th brother committed a grave mistake because he fell in love with a lowly human woman, and he was placed under house arrest by my father. Now that I think about it, it has already been a few tens of years since anyone came to visit him. Lin Sun frowned imperceptibly. He knew that Ao Xianfeng was talking about Yin Huan. "Follow me." Ao Xianfeng flew toward the Forbidden Heaven Mountain in the distance. Lin Sun followed behind him and looked at the Forbidden Heaven Mountain in the distance. He instantly sensed that the depths of the mountain were dark and strict. It was covered by layers of restriction power. Many places imprisoned many tyrannical and fierce auras. At the foot of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain, there were groups of buildings. Many servants and manservants walked among them, busy with their own affairs. "4th Prince, why are you here?" When Ao Xianfeng walked over, a gray-haired old man in a black Taoist robe came up to greet him. This was an emperor from the Paleo imperial family. He was called Battle Emperor Hunjun. He played the role of an elder in the Dragon Palace. He stayed here all year round and looked after the affairs of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Although he was an emperor, Battle Emperor Hunjun still showed a respectful expression when facing Ao Xianfeng. Lin Sun suddenly realized that this was probably the result of signing the natal decree when becoming an emperor and handing over his fate to the true dragon bloodline. A dignified emperor was enough to deter all living beings on the starry ancient path. But now, in the territory of the true dragon bloodline, he was reduced to a jailer. "I brought this friend from the true dragon bloodline to see him. You lead the way," Ao Xianfeng ordered casually. "4th Prince, please," Battle Emperor Hunjun said and led the way. He took out a golden formation plate and released a beam of golden divine light. It suddenly opened a passage to the inside of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain, and everyone followed him inside. The inside of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain was dark and oppressive, and the ripples of the power of restrictions were everywhere. Even walking in it would cause one's heart to palpitate. The 4th Prince and the 7th Prince are confined to the palace in the deepest part of this mountain path. They arrived at the entrance of a massive cave, and Battle God Hanju said, "It's just that this cave is extremely dark and cramped, and it's filled with the stench of blood and filth." Should I invite the seventh prince out? Ao Xianfeng frowned and said, There's no need for that. I'm only leading the way for this friend of mine. There's nothing else for me to do now, so I intend to leave. Bring this friend in. He pointed to Lin's son. Battle Emperor Hun. Mo nodded before turning to Lin's son. Friend, please come with me. As he spoke, he walked into the dark and deep cave. Thank you for taking care of me along the way, fourth prince. Lin Sun cupped his hands at Ao Xianfeng before following Battle Emperor Hunju into the cave. After watching them disappear, Ao Xianfeng smiled with a playful look in his eyes. He transmitted his voice to the people around him. I'll let you all watch a good show later. The retainers were all stunned. They suddenly realized that Ao Xianfeng, who had always been arrogant, had brought that fellow from the true Ho clan here for a different purpose. Fourth prince, is there something wrong with that fellow? A retainer couldn't help but ask. Idiot. Someone spoke first. Everyone in the clan knows that the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover despises the seventh prince the most. How could he allow that fellow from the true Ho clan to come and see the seventh prince? This is the first reason. The second reason is that everyone knows that the seventh prince has been confined for the past few decades and has become a loner. Yet, that fellow from the true Ho clan suddenly came and asked to see the seventh prince. This is too strange. After saying that, the retainers all fell into deep thought. Ao Xianfeng said indifferently, Just wait. I've already transmitted my voice to Battle Emperor Hunju. As long as that fellow enters this cave, he's destined to be trapped and unable to escape. When the time comes, I'll make him tell me why he's here. At the end of his words, a hint of ruthlessness flashed in the depths of his eyes. Did they really think that Ao Xuanfeng's time was something to be wasted? If it wasn't for the fact that he sensed that something was amiss, he wouldn't even bother to pay attention to a small character like the true Ho clan. The cave was dark and damp, filled with a disgusting smell of filth and blood. Apart from that, there was also a faintly discernible and terrifying restrictive power pervading the air. With Lin Sun's level of existence, he instantly sensed that the restrictive power covering the cave was enough to threaten an ordinary Emperor Realm existence. Lin Sun asked, fellow Taoist, what kind of person is the seventh prince? Why is he confined to such a ghastly place? Battle Emperor Hunju didn't even turn his head as he replied, I'm only playing the role of a guide. I don't know anything about this. Lin Sun nodded before suddenly asking, the seventh prince doesn't seem to have become an emperor yet, right? Battle Emperor Hunju faltered slightly before keeping his mouth shut, as if he had no intention of continuing the conversation with Lin Sun. Lin Sun smiled. That's strange. The seventh prince is a direct descendant of the true dragon clan, and he hasn't become an emperor yet. Yet he's confined to this place that's used to imprison emperors. Could it be that he's committed some heinous crime? Battle Emperor Hunju remained silent and continued on his own. Lin Sun furrowed his brows. Just as he was about to say something, a voice suddenly sounded in his ears. Have you heard of Lin Daoyuan? Lin Sun's heart jolted, and he almost subconsciously attacked to kill this person. One had to know that the true dragon clan might know of his name, Lin Sun, but they definitely wouldn't know the three words Lin Daoyuan. In the true dragon realm, the only ones who knew of this name were Zheng, and Shui, and Tianshui, and a few others from the Tao Imperial clan. To tell the truth, I am Lin Daoyuan. In the end, Lin Sun suppressed the killing intent in his heart and transmitted his voice. He planned to give it a try. As soon as he sensed something amiss, he would immediately attack. However, Battle Emperor Hunju's footsteps suddenly slowed down, but he still didn't turn around. He transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. As long as you can prove that you are Lin Daoyuan, there are some things that we can discuss. I once stayed on the Green Rainbow Divine Island of the Tao Imperial clan for many days. Lin Sun pondered for a moment before probing. If I remember correctly, it seems that only the Tao Imperial clan knows my name. Battle Emperor Hunju suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned around to look at Lin Sun. He transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. Were you the one who kidnapped Dragon Emperor Fu Hai? Lin Sun's eyes narrowed when he heard this. He immediately realized that this news was most likely leaked by Tian Shui and Tian Lin and the others. However, he didn't expect the news to spread so quickly. Even an elder who guarded the heaven-forbidden mountain had heard of it. This was too inconceivable. It was clear that something unexpected had happened after he left the Green Rainbow Divine Island. After a moment of silence, Lin Sun met Battle Emperor Hunju's gaze and transmitted his voice to him. That's right. Battle Emperor Hunju also seemed to be relieved of a heavy burden, and his expression relaxed. He transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. Fellow Taoist Lin, I can already confirm your identity, so you don't need to worry. The core members of the 9 great imperial clans have already known that you've come to the Dragon Palace. They've even sent word to us to help you, if there's an opportunity. Lin Sun was startled, and he only spoke after a long while. The 9 great imperial clans all know about this? That's right. Fellow Taoist, you possess the inheritance of the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon, which is enough to change the fate of the 9 great imperial clans. How can we not help you in such an important matter? Battle Emperor Hunju continued onward. I'm not afraid to tell you that the 9 great imperial clans have already secretly formed an alliance. We've also sent out an order that all the elders of the 9 great imperial clans in the Dragon Palace will lend you a helping hand if they encounter you. Of course, we can only help you in secret. Once we're exposed, we'll have no choice but to watch from the sidelines. Please understand, fellow Taoist. Lin Sun finally understood everything. It turned out that all of this was related to the inheritance of the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon. He had long sensed that the inheritance of the 9 transformations of the Calamity Dragon was like a deterring force controlled by the bloodline of the true dragon. It had firmly suppressed the 9 great imperial clans, and when their clansmen became martial monarchs, they had no choice but to hand their fate over to the bloodline of the true dragon. As such, the 9 great imperial clans had no choice but to submit to the bloodline of the true dragon. However, his appearance had allowed the 9 great imperial clans to see an opportunity to break all these shackles and change the fate of their clans. I see. Regardless of the outcome of this trip to the Dragon Palace, as long as I can successfully leave this place, I'll never forget the kindness of the 9 great imperial clans. Lin Sun transmitted his voice to Battle Emperor Hunju. His voice was serious and solemn. This unexpected turn of events was very sudden, but it was also a very good thing. Of course, Lin Sun wouldn't reject the kindness and assistance of the 9 great imperial clans. This was exactly what Battle Emperor Hunmi wanted to hear. He looked towards the entrance of the cave and transmitted his voice to Lin Sun. Cultivator Lin, don't be too happy yet. From the moment you entered the world of the Dragon Palace, you've already aroused the suspicion of the 4th prince, Ao Xianfeng. Moreover, you're currently in a precarious situation. Lin Sun raised his eyebrows. Battle Emperor Hunmi continued. Your previous suspicions are correct. This cave is specially used by the bloodline of the true dragon to suppress martial monarchs. Although the 7th prince you wanted to meet is under house arrest, he's still a direct descendant of the true dragon. How could he possibly be confined to a place like this? It looks like Ao Xianfeng has used this to deal with me. Lin Sun's eyes were deep and dark. He had long felt that something was amiss. If Battle Emperor Hunmi hadn't pointed out the truth, it was very likely that he would have fallen into Ao Xianfeng's trap. What does he want to do, he asked. Battle Emperor Hunmi replied. Previously, the 4th prince passed a message saying that your identity is suspicious. He asked me to lure you into this cave and suppress you with the power of the restriction here. After that, he'll come and interrogate you personally. Lin Sun couldn't help but frown upon hearing this. What on earth did he reveal that allowed Ao Xianfeng to see through him and almost set him up? P.S. Continue to seek guaranteed monthly votes. Goldfish no longer has any manuscript stored and has already left the country. Every day, I have to watch those big shots having fun together while I'm still writing. My heart feels stifled. When Goldfish returns home, there'll definitely be a huge explosion this month. Chapter 23-28. At the same time, Battle Monarch Hunjun also said, "Fellow cultivator, why don't you think about what made you suspicious when you entered the Dragon Palace?" Lin Sun thought for a moment before telling him the details of his journey. "I understand." Battle God Hun Fan quickly came to a realization. You can't blame fellow Taoist Lin for this. It's just that you have no idea that Dragon Emperor Fu Hai has always looked down on the seventh prince, and the two of them have always been on bad terms. However, you came here with Dragon Emperor Fu Hai's badge and wanted to meet the seventh prince. Before he finished, Lin Sun also understood and nodded. "That's my oversight." Battle Monarch Hanjun quickly transmitted his voice. "Fellow cultivator, there's no time to lose. Now that the fourth prince is waiting outside, what do you think we should do?" Lin Sun thought for a moment before looking at Battle Monarch Hanjun. "I have a way that will not only save you from being implicated, but also allow me to meet the seventh prince. It's just that it will make you suffer a bit." Battle God Hun Wu faltered slightly upon hearing this, and his expression darkened as if he had thought of a certain possibility. After a long while, he finally gritted his teeth and said, "What's the big deal? As long as I can help you, everything is worth it." Lin Sun nodded and transmitted his voice. Outside the cave, Ao Xianfeng furrowed his brows. Just as he was feeling a little impatient, he heard a rumble from within the dark cave, and the power of the restriction suddenly surged. The terrifying aura made Ao Xuanfeng's breath catch in his throat. The other retainers were also shocked. After a while, the power of the restriction in the cave calmed down. At the same time, Battle Monarch Hanjun's voice sounded from the depths of the cave. "Young master, it's done. It's done." The retainers were all excited. Ao Xianfeng also smiled and led the way into the cave. From beginning to end, he didn't have any suspicions. After all, this was the Dragon Palace, the territory of the true dragon bloodline. Ao Xianfeng didn't think that an emperor like Battle Monarch Hanjun, whose fate was controlled by his clan, would have any ulterior motives. After entering the cave, they saw Battle Monarch Hanjun waiting for them. Beside him, a figure lay unconscious on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. "Battle Emperor Hunmi, hurry up and wake this bastard up. I want to see why he's here." Ao Xuanfeng's eyes were filled with coldness, yet he was actually slightly complacent in his heart. He felt that it was precisely because he was perceptive that he'd seen through a scheme. "Fourth Prince, you disappoint me." But right at this moment, Battle Emperor Hun waved his sleeves, and Dao light rumbled. Before the nearby subordinates could even react, they were all suppressed. All of them fell limply to the ground, and they didn't even have the chance to scream. Not good. The complacent expression on Ao Xuanfeng's face froze. Almost instinctively, he immediately moved out of the flash. Bang! However, he had just made a move when the back of his head was struck fiercely. His vision went black, and he almost fainted. His figure smashed onto the ground, and he fell flat on his face. "Battle Emperor Hunmi, how dare you betray our tribe?" Ao Xianfeng was enraged, and his face was livid. However, when he turned around, he discovered that Battle God Hunpa's appearance had changed into Lin Sun's. All of a sudden, he was dumbfounded, his heart turning cold. "Look, the Battle Emperor Hunpa you mentioned is over there. However, he can't help you anymore," Lin Sun said casually as he pointed at the figure lying in the distance. "Who the hell are you?" Ao Xianfeng roared, his voice like a clap of thunder. Lin Sun laughed, and he saw through Ao Xuanfeng's thoughts at a glance. "This place has already been covered by my power. Even if you shout yourself hoarse, no one will be able to detect anything unusual." Ao Xuanfeng's heart was completely cold, and his hands and feet were cold. However, he still couldn't believe that there was someone in this world who dared to sneak into their territory. Wasn't he afraid of death? Who didn't know that offending the true dragon bloodline would result in the annihilation of the entire tribe? Lin Sun said, "I guess it must be very difficult for you to accept all this now. Your seventh uncle also thought the same back then. He even thought that I didn't dare to kill him." Ao Xuanfeng's face changed drastically. You killed seventh uncle. Dragon Emperor Fu Hai was a lawless existence. In the true dragon bloodline, his cultivation could be regarded as a top-notch existence. At this moment, Ao Xianfeng showed signs of losing control of his mind. How could this be possible? How could this be possible? For Ao Xianfeng, who grew up in the true dragon bloodline since childhood, the sky of the true dragon world was the sky of their clan, the earth was the land of their clan, and all the creatures in the world were their servants and subjects. For countless years, this situation had never changed. Therefore, Ao Xianfeng couldn't imagine how anyone in this world dared to commit murder in their world. At the moment when Ao Xuanfeng's mind was in turmoil, Lin Sun's long-prepared divine awareness quietly poured into his body. He wanted to search his soul. To Lin Sun's surprise, a layer of mysterious dragon restriction power covered Ao Xuanfeng's soul. Of course, this kind of defensive power couldn't block Lin Sun's divine awareness at all. But if Lin Sun forcibly searched his soul, there was very likely to be only one result. Ao Xuanfeng's soul would burst into pieces in an instant. In the end, in order to avoid alerting the enemy, Lin Sun restrained himself and waved his hand to knock Ao Xianfeng unconscious. Then, he threw all the suppressed subordinates into the Tower of Endless. After doing all this, Lin Sun glanced at Battle Emperor Hunmi, who was lying on the ground in the distance, and sent a voice transmission. "Thank you, fellow cultivator." After saying this, he turned around and left. This time, Battle Emperor Hunmi was ruthless enough to let Lin Sun severely injure him and knock him out. According to Battle Emperor Hunmi, this was the only way to prevent the true dragon bloodline from suspecting him of disloyalty. Lin Sun walked out of the cave and walked in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain according to Battle Emperor Hunmi's instructions. Along the way, Lin Sun also noticed many prisoners locked up here. Not only were there clansmen of the true dragon bloodline, but there were also many creatures from other clans. All of them were in a miserable state, living a life worse than death. Lin Sun even saw a fourth-level martial emperor from the green-eyed Flying Phoenix race. He didn't know how long he had been locked up here. His body was rotten and emitted a foul stench. It was a shocking sight. 15 minutes later, in the depths of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain, there was an ancient stone house on a plateau halfway up the mountain. An invisible restrictive power completely covered the plateau and the stone house. From afar, Lin Sun saw a figure sitting alone in front of the stone house. He was cultivating, and his body was surging with true dragon chi. He had a strong and slender body. His facial features were handsome and tough, and there was a sense of tenacity between his brows. It was Ao Jintian. However, compared to when they met in the ancient Desolation Realm, Ao Jintian didn't have that arrogant, domineering, and carefree temperament anymore. There was only a sense of calmness and tenacity left. Lin Sun looked around and sensed for a moment. He was still a little worried, so he waved his sleeve and a series of formation flags flew out. They turned into a mysterious, restrictive formation that instantly covered the plateau. At the same time, Lin Sun took out a golden formation plate. This was obtained from Battle Emperor Hunmi. It was used to open all kinds of restrictive powers in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Buzz, the restrictive power fluctuated, and Lin Sun successfully walked into the plateau. Ao Jintian, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw Lin Sun, he was stunned and almost thought he was dreaming. "Brother, Lin?" Ao Jintian stood up. "This is the forbidden area of my clan. Why are you here?" "I'm here for Jing Xian," Lin Sun said. Ao Jintian's expression suddenly became complicated, and he sighed. "I knew that as long as you didn't see my cousin return to the ancient Desolation Realm, you would come to find me sooner or later." He took out a pot of wine. "I haven't seen you for decades. Do you want to have a drink?" Lin Sun shook his head and said, "I took a great risk to come here this time. Do you think I still have the mood to drink?" Ao Jintian silently put away the wine jug, and then he said with a low and sincere voice, "Brother Lin, you shouldn't have come here. If you still trust me as you did all those years ago, then I hope that you can leave and go as far as you can." Don't step foot into this dimension for your entire lifetime. Lin Sun frowned and said, I just want to ask you, where is Jing Xian now? Ao Zhentian shook his head. After the end of the All Dragons Immortals meeting, I was grounded here. I haven't had a chance to go out for decades. How could I know where Jing Xian is? Lin Sun's heart was filled with unspeakable anger. He suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Ao Zhentian's clothes. At that time, you vowed that you would guarantee Jing Xian's safety, so I agreed to let Jing Xian come with you. But now you tell me, you don't know where Jing Xian is? His deep eyes were filled with rage that seemed to be on the verge of burning. Ao Zhentian looked gloomy. He lowered his head and didn't dare to look directly at Lin Sun's eyes. He said bitterly, I didn't expect that there would be such an accident at the All Dragons Immortals meeting. He took a deep breath and said, Brother Lin, although I don't know where Jing Xian is now, I dare to guarantee you with my life that she will never be in any danger. Bang! Lin Sun threw him to the ground with a cold look in his eyes. If you really take me as a friend, tell me what happened at the All Dragons Immortals meeting. Why do all the people of the real dragon bloodline want me to die since then? Ao Zhentian's face was gloomy, and his chest was heaving up and down. It seemed that he was suffering and struggling in his heart. After a long time, he lowered his head and said bitterly, I can't tell you about this. Brother Lin, I beg you, leave now before those big shots of my clan find you, okay? Ao Zhentian, will definitely give you an explanation for this matter in the future. There was even a trace of pleading in his voice. But the more it was like this, the more Lin Sun felt that something was wrong. He forced himself to restrain the anger in his heart. Looking at Ao Zhentian, who sat paralyzed on the ground and didn't dare to look at him, he couldn't help showing disappointment in his eyes and said, It seems that it's in vain for me to look for you. Well, I'll solve this matter myself. Chapter 23-29. Ao Zhentian's face changed completely. Brother Lin, what are you going to do? This is the true Dragon Clan. Once you are exposed, you'll be doomed eternally. Lin Sun turned around and walked out of the cliff platform without looking back. Do you remember what I told you that year? I'm reading a free serialized novel. Ao Zhentian couldn't help but think of what Lin Sun said before he left with Zhao Jingxian in the Star Chest Sea in the ancient Desolation territory. I believe you, but it's hard for me to believe the whole true dragon bloodline. Really, if something happens to Jingxian, I won't be able to bear it. At that time, I won't care about the true dragon bloodline. Although it's a little harsh, I mean it. I heard that dragons have reverse scales, and Jingxian is my reverse scale. At that time, Zhentian didn't take these words seriously, but at this moment, every single word of these words was like a blade that pierced fiercely into his heart. He was completely panicked and said in a hoarse voice, Brother Lin, Looking up, he found that Lin Sun had already disappeared. For a moment, Ao Zhentian trembled all over, and endless panic surged in his heart. He rushed out as if he had lost control. Bang! The power of the restriction tumbled and blocked him. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Ao Zhentian's eyes were red. He kept attacking the restriction, but it was in vain in the end. Brother Lin, if you were me and put yourself in his shoes, would you choose to betray your parents, your friends, and your clan? Ao Zhentian squatted on the ground, holding his head tightly and showing a painful expression. Why? Why is it like this? Lin Sun didn't really leave. When he saw Ao Zhentian in pain from a distance, he sighed in his heart. In the end, he opened his mouth and said, Lady Yin Huan was captured by your fourth brother and banished in an extremely humiliating manner. She became the most lowly slave in the eyes of your dragon clan and was sold many times. If you were in Yin Huan's shoes, would you still protect your clan? She is your most beloved woman. What? Ao Zhentian felt like being struck by lightning, and his head almost exploded. He was completely out of control, and all his muscles were trembling with anger. If you understand my feelings now, tell me about Jingxian. I'll still treat you as a friend, said Lin Sun. Ao Zhentian's face twisted as if he was about to go crazy. Right at this moment, a gentle voice resounded. Zhentian, help Brother Lin. We don't know if Miss Jing Xian is dead or alive, but she's also your cousin and Brother Lin's Dao companion. A.O. Jintian suddenly raised his head, and within his bloodshot eyes, he saw the familiar, beautiful figure that he'd yearned for day and night for a few tens of years. When he saw her looking at him with a pitiful expression, the steadfastness in A.O. Jintian's heart seemed to have been shattered, and he said with a trembling voice, "In Huan, is what Brother Lin said earlier true?" In Huan nodded and said in a low voice, "If it wasn't for Brother Lin, I'm afraid I would never see you again." A.O. Jintian gnashed his teeth to the point they emitted cracking sounds. He took a deep breath after a long time, and his eyes were filled with ruthlessness as he muttered, "I never thought of betraying the clan in my lifetime, but all of this was caused by all of you." Lin Sun and In Huan looked at each other, and both felt relieved. However, when Lin Sun learned from A.O. Jintian the inside story of the shocking change that happened at the All Dragons Immortal Gathering, Lin Sun was completely stunned. Decades ago, the All Dragons Immortal Gathering attracted the attention of all clans in the True Dragon world, and a total of 47 most outstanding disciples of the younger generation of the True Dragon bloodline participated in it. In this gathering, these disciples of the younger generation would seize the power of the ancestral dragon origin gathered in the True Dragon pool by their own means. As the niece of the patriarch, Zhao Jingxian was also qualified to participate in it. At the beginning, Zhao Jingshuan's performance was not outstanding, and she was even ridiculed by many big shots of the Dragon Clan, saying that her bloodline was impure. But halfway through the gathering, a shocking change happened. Zhao Jingxian suddenly shone brilliantly and crazily swallowed the ancestral dragon origin prepared in the True Dragon pool in a domineering way. No matter how hard the other disciples of the True Dragon bloodline fought, they couldn't get a drop. This scene instantly caused a stir in the surroundings. But gradually, all the great figures of the True Dragon bloodline noticed that something was off. The ancestral dragon origin in the True Dragon pool was one of the most precious treasures of the True Dragon bloodline, and its energy was extremely shocking. Any disciple could at most refine around 50 kilograms of ancestral dragon origin. However, Zhao Jingshuan's body was like a bottomless pit that ceaselessly swallowed the ancestral dragon origin, and it was on the verge of completely swallowing the ancestral dragon origin. Those great figures of the True Dragon clan stopped her without the slightest hesitation. Later on, the current patriarch of the True Dragon clan, A.O. Huanhai, noticed that it wasn't Zhao Jingxian who had swallowed the ancestral dragon origin. It was the baby in her womb. Lin Sun felt like he was struck by lightning when he heard this, and he was stunned on the spot. A baby! A baby! Isn't that Mayan Jingxian's child? Lin Sun's heart surged. Even if he was an Emperor realm existence that had tempered his mental state to an unprecedented level, he still couldn't restrain his emotions when he heard such good news. It was like his heartstrings had been struck forcefully, and it caused ripples that were like landslides and tsunamis. To have a child? He looked at In Huan next to him with a kind of unconcealable ecstasy in his eyes, as well as disbelief. In Huan was also shocked by the news, but she was an outsider after all, so she was calmer than Lin Sun. She immediately nodded with a smile. Yes, Brother Lin is now father. Lin Sun was full of emotions. He took a deep breath and looked at A.O. Jintian again. A.O. Jintian lowered his head and didn't dare to look at Lin Sun's eyes. This made Lin Sun suddenly sober from the excitement, as if a basin of cold water had been poured on him. He calmed down and said, "Go on." A.O. Jintian was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth and spoke as if he had exhausted all his strength. After learning that Zhao Jingxian was pregnant with Y, the big shots led by A.O. Huanhai, the patriarch of the True Dragon clan, were all furious. Originally, they called Zhao Jingxian back this time, in addition to letting her participate in the 10,000 Dragons Immortal Gathering. There was another purpose. That was to arrange a marriage for her and betroth her to Bai Kongjia, the 9th prince of the White Tiger bloodline. But now, with the news that Zhao Jingxian was pregnant with Y, this marriage was obviously impossible. Just when those big shots of the true dragon clan were furious and wanted to punish Zhao Jingxian severely, Ao Huanhai discovered a shocking secret. The child in Zhao Jingshuan's womb not only possessed the purest and supreme ancestral dragon bloodline, but also possessed a forbidden and terrifying talent, devouring abyss. As one of the congenital spirit clans that had existed since ancient times, how could Ao Huanhai not know that the talent of devouring abyss was unique to the Nirvana Immortal clan, the Luo family? Moreover, even in the Luo family, there were very few clansmen who could awaken such a talent. But now, there was such a baby in Zhao Jingshuan's body who had awakened such a terrible talent. What shocked Ao Huanhai the most was that such a baby had extremely pure ancestral dragon blood, which was rare even in the bloodline of the true dragon. Hearing this, Lin Sun's face darkened. He had vaguely guessed something. Because of this change, the meeting of dragon immortals was interrupted and all the news was blocked and suppressed. Moreover, all the clansmen who participated in the meeting were sealed. Ao Zhentian's voice became even lower. It was also from that moment onward that cousin Jingxian was taken away by my father. Not to mention me, even the great figures of the clan were unaware of this, and this matter was listed as the core secret of my true dragon clan. Lin Sun's face was full of uncertainty, and he said, "You don't know? I have been imprisoned here all these years. How could I know this?" Ao Zhentian's voice was bitter. "The only thing I can be sure of is that because of the baby in cousin Jingshuan's womb, my father will not harm cousin Jingxian. That's my child and Jingxian's child." Lin Sun's face was livid. "As a father, I am regarded as an enemy by the true dragon clan. They can't wait to eradicate me as soon as possible. They even worried that I would find them from the Starry Sky ancient path, so they didn't hesitate to sink the path leading to the Starry Sky ancient path." Lin Sun took a deep breath and said word by word, "Now, tell me, what does the true dragon clan want to do? You seized my child and made him surnamed Ao, so that he doesn't know who his real father is at all?" Ao Zhentian was dejected and couldn't refute. Just as Lin Sun guessed, after learning about the baby's terrifying talent, the bigwigs of the true dragon bloodline would never allow the baby to leave the true dragon bloodline again. If they could kill Lin Sun, it was tantamount to completely cutting off the situation of recognizing his son. "Brother Lin, calm down. This matter can't be changed by Zhentian." In Huan looked at Lin Sun, who was in a rage, worriedly, and softly persuaded him. Lin Sun took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down, but it was difficult to calm down his heart. Decades had passed. Didn't Jingxian and his child grow up long ago? But as a father, he didn't know all this until now. At the thought of this, Lin Sun's heart was boiling with hatred, and he was almost out of control. Ao Zhentian thought of something and said in a low voice, "Brother Lin, it's not because of you that the path leading to the Starry Sky ancient path was sunk. The elders of my clan knew very well that if the Nameless Supreme Venerable knew that your child had the talent of devouring abyss, he would definitely kill him from the Starry Sky ancient path." Lin Sun frowned and said, "The Nameless Supreme Venerable has been completely defeated, and now there is only a remnant soul left." Ao Zhentian was stunned. The Nameless Supreme Venerable comes from the Luo family of the Permitha continent and controls the power of the Thunder Taboo. How could he be defeated? Obviously, he also knew the origin of the Nameless Supreme Venerable. "Zhentian, now is not the time to talk about this. Tell Brother Lin, where is Jingxian now?" In Huan couldn't help asking. Lin Sun also looked at Ao Zhentian. "I really don't know about this." Ao Zhentian's voice became more and more bitter. Chapter 23:30. Lin Sun stared at Ao Zhentian for a moment and couldn't help sighing. "At the beginning, you tried your best to persuade me to leave. Do you think that even if I come here, your bloodline of true dragons won't allow me to take away Jingxian and my child?" Ao Zhentian shook his head. "I'm just worried that you will encounter an accident. Whether you believe it or not, I don't want to lose you as a friend." Lin Sun took a deep breath and said, "I see." His voice was calm and emotionless, but it made Ao Jintian's heart tremble, and he said, "Brother Lin, don't act recklessly. The Dragon Palace is far more terrible than you think." Lin Sun said, "I understand you and respect your position because we are friends, but you also have to consider my feelings on this matter." Ao Jintian's face turned pale, and he was out of his wits. "In Huan, do you want to stay with him or go with me?" Lin Sun looked at In Huan. "You should know that if the bloodline of true dragons find you again, the consequences will be more serious than last time." In Huan was stunned at once. Ao Jintian was so angry that his eyes turned red. "This time, even if I have to pay with my life, I won't allow In Huan to suffer any grievances. Look at your current situation. What can guarantee all this?" Lin Sun said, "If it weren't for me, the woman you AI would have become the plaything of those bastards." In Huan begged in a low voice, "Brother Lin, don't say any more. This time, I will stay with Jintian, even if I die." The sad and sincere voice stunned Ao Jintian. The seventh prince of true dragons was in tears at this moment, and his mood was out of control. "I'll take you out of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Whether you leave the bloodline of true dragons or choose to stay, it's up to you." After Lin Sun said this, he removed the power of restriction, and a formation flag appeared in his palm. It sprinkled dreamlike fluctuations of restriction, covering him, Ao Jintian, and In Huan in it. Then they left together, outside the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. "Take this. It can hide your breath from being detected." Lin Sun took out another formation flag imprinted with the power of restriction and handed it to Ao Jintian. "Brother Lin." When Ao Jintian was about to say something, he was interrupted by Lin Sun. "If you still want to persuade me, don't mention it again. Or you can try to stop me." When Lin Sun was about to leave, he raised his eyes and looked around. Ao Jintian gritted his teeth and threw a jade slip to Lin Sun. "This is the map of Dragon Palace. I have marked all the areas on it. If there is any accident," as he spoke, he took out a jade token and tossed it to Lin Sun. "This is my token. It can activate the restriction to leave the Dragon Palace. This is all I can do. I hope you can take Miss Jing Xian and my nephew away. In Huan, let's go." After saying that, he brought In Huan and went straight into the distance. Lin Sun looked at the jade slip and token in his hand, and then looked at Ao Jintian and In Huan, who were far away. He was a little surprised and immediately said, "Thank you." Ao Jintian didn't look back, but In Huan turned her head and waved at Lin Sun with a smile. Phew, Lin Sun took a deep breath and opened the jade slip, which depicted the topographic map of the Dragon Palace in detail. Different places were marked with detailed information. For example, the central place of the Dragon Palace was called the Great Way of all dragons, which was the core place of the true dragon. Since ancient times, only the lineal relatives of the true dragon patriarch could live in it. In the vicinity of the 10,000 Dragon Palace, there was a winding and majestic mountain range that looked like a giant dragon coiling around it. This was the ancestor Dragon Mountain, the ancestral land of the true dragon. There were old antiques guarding it all year round. Generally, the clansmen of the true dragon could not get close to it. Decades ago, the gathering of all dragons was held in the dragon pool of the ancestor Dragon Mountain. Soon, Lin Sun noticed that there were 49 paths leading to the outside world, and each path was clearly marked by Ao Jintian. After staring at the map for a long time, Lin Sun put away the jade slip and token, and then started to fly away. Haha, the true dragon is going to be in big trouble. As soon as Lin Sun left, crazy laughter sounded in a dark prison in the depths of the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. All this is caused by the traitor Min Luo, Dragon Emperor. God has eyes. Finally, a big change is going to happen. This voice rumbled, and many prisoners in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain heard it. For a moment, all of them couldn't help but be agitated. How dare you? Someone, go in, deal with that old bastard of the Cheonyo Imperial clan. Hurry up. Not long after, the guards in charge of the Heaven Forbidden Mountain rushed into the Heaven Forbidden Mountain with whips flickering with lightning in their hands. But before long, someone sent a message in panic. Oh no, the seventh prince is missing. What? At this moment, the guards guarding the heaven-forbidden mountain all changed their expressions and panicked. The seventh prince was grounded here by the order of the patriarch. Now that he had disappeared, the consequences were unbearable for the guards. Hurry up, spread the news that there is a big change in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Someone roared and roared. Before long, a group of figures teleported over from the distant sky. The leader was a black-robed, golden-haired, strong-looking old man who emitted a monstrous aura belonging to the Emperor realm. Ao Tianquin, also known as Zhan Kuan Dragon Emperor, was a big shot in the 5th level of the Emperor realm. After learning what happened in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain, Ao Tianquin's face darkened. He frowned and said, "Where is Battle Emperor Hunmi? Why isn't he here after such a big thing happened?" The guards looked at each other. Someone said, "The fourth prince brought some people here before. Battle Emperor Hunmi personally received them. I saw them enter the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Go and find him," Ao Tianquin ordered. Soon, the severely wounded and unconscious battle god Hun Mo was found, but all of them were completely astonished by what they had just witnessed. No one expected that someone would dare to commit murder in the Forbidden Heaven Mountain in the Dragon Palace. Ao Tianquin's old face turned livid. With a wave of his hand, he woke up the unconscious battle Emperor Hunmi. "Speak. What happened? Where are the 4th and 7th princes?" Ao Tianquin roared. His eyes were terrifyingly cold, even though they were both Emperor Realm cultivators. In his eyes, Battle Emperor Hunmi was only a worshipped elder who wasn't worthy of his respect. Although Battle Emperor Hunmi was furious, he still lowered his head and suppressed his anger. He told Ao Tianquin everything that had happened. "So you're saying that you were also injured by that outsider? I want to know who that outsider is." Ao Tianquin's eyes flashed. He suddenly took out a bright and translucent cyan-say treasure mirror from his sleeve. Buzz! As the cyan-say treasure mirror glowed, many images instantly appeared on its surface. Not long after, Ao Tianquin saw Ao Xianfeng and the others leading Lin Sun from the entrance to the Dragon Palace and all the way to the Forbidden Heaven Mountain. Battle God Hun Sha's head was lowered the entire time, but he knew that the Science-A treasure mirror was known as the Sky Inspecting Treasure Mirror, and every single Dragon Clan mighty figure possessed one. Through this treasure, they could see everything that was happening in the Dragon Palace. When he was chatting with Lin Sun, he had specifically mentioned the existence of this treasure to Lin Sun. At the same time, Ao Tianquin also saw Lin Sun and Battle Emperor Hunmi entering the cave together. Before long, Ao Xianfeng and the others also entered the cave. But in the end, Lin Sun was the only one who walked out of the cave. When he saw this, Ao Tianquin's old face was covered with frost. A strong sense of foreboding welled up in his heart. The fourth prince and the others had probably already been captured by that outsider. "Someone, go and see if the fourth prince's soul lamp is still lit," he ordered as he continued to inspect the place. When he saw Lin Sun walking toward the cliff plateau where the seventh prince, Ao Jintian, was, everything suddenly disappeared. Ao Tianquin's pupils shrank. He guessed that the outsider had set up a formation to conceal the power of the Sky Inspecting Treasure Mirror. After a long time, Ao Tianquin finally saw the cliff plateau where the seventh prince had been imprisoned, but it was already empty. Even the outsider had disappeared, let alone the seventh prince. Damn it! Ao Tianquin's eyes shone with a terrifying light. This person clearly came prepared. Otherwise, there's no way he could avoid the Sky Inspecting Treasure Mirror's detection. Battle Emperor Hunmi. Do you know who this person is? He looked at Battle Emperor Hunmi. Battle Emperor Hunmi replied. The fourth prince only said that this traitor came with the token of the Dragon Emperor of the Sea Cover. His identity is very suspicious. I don't know anything else. What a piece of trash. Ao Tianquin snorted coldly, his beard bristling with anger. Battle Emperor Hunmi also roared in his heart. When the fate of the 9 great imperial clans changes, let's see if the true dragon bloodline can still reign supreme in this world. The 4th and 7th princes have already disappeared. It looks like this outsider is plotting something big. Oh, Tinkwin took a deep breath and issued an order. Pass down my order. Inform all living beings in the Dragon Palace about this traitor. No matter where they find him, they must report to me immediately. Yes, immediately, many of the nearby subordinates, guards, and other level angles began to move. At the same time, Tinkwin took out a shell-shaped treasure and said to it, "Elders, an outsider has snuck into the Dragon Palace." He reported everything that he had discovered. Finally, he exerted force in his fingers, and the shell-shaped treasure exploded with a bang. It transformed into dazzling streams of light that whizzed in all directions. This was a voice transmission shell. It was extremely magical and could be heard by anyone who was also holding a voice transmission shell. After doing all this, Tinkwin took a deep breath and a cold expression appeared on his face. Chapter 23:31. Linxiu Peak. It was a mountain not far from the Palace of All Dragons. It was extraordinary. A long time ago, this was the place where Xintong, the elder sister of Huanhai, lived and cultivated. Decades ago, Zhao Jingxian was settled here after she arrived at the Dragon Palace. Because Xintong was the name of her mother, the Empress of Xiao Empire. Lin Sun appeared in front of Linxiu Peak, looked up at the misty mountain, took a deep breath, and walked up the mountain. Clatter, a burst of restriction rippled and covered Linxiu Peak, but it was not deterrent in front of Lin Sun, and he easily avoided it. The mountain was winding green, and misty. Spiritual birds and auspicious beasts could be seen everywhere. It was quiet and tranquil. Halfway up the mountain, there were rows of ancient buildings, pavilions, and green bamboos. Some servants and manservants were sweeping the fallen leaves on the mountain lazily. Seeing this scene from a distance, Lin Sun couldn't help wondering if Jingxian had lived here for decades. He spread his spiritual awareness and covered the ancient buildings in an instant. But soon he frowned because there was no figure of Zhao Jingxian in those buildings. Without leaving a trace, he walked into an ancient hall. The furnishings in the room were elegant, simple, and tidy, and traces of faint fragrance still remained in the air. Lin Sun recognized that it belonged to Zhao Jingxian at once. He moved his eyes and soon saw that on one side should be Zhao Jingshuan's boudoir, with a bed, a soft couch, and a dressing table. When he saw an item next to the soft couch, Lin Sun was stunned. It was a small toy bamboo horse, polished from tender and smooth jade bamboo. Beside the bamboo horse, there was a small cradle, a small bamboo sword, and a small rattle drum. Lin Sun's heart trembled. These were all prepared by Jingxian for her child. But where was she? After a while, Lin Sun took a deep breath and waved his sleeves to put away the bamboo horse, the cradle, and the rattle drum. Then he turned around and walked out of the room. Bang, 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 outside the room. As Lin Sun's spiritual awareness swept across, the servants and maids scattered in various areas all fainted silently on the ground. He planned to search the souls of these servants to see if he could find any clues related to Zhao Jingxian. But before Lin Sun could take action, there was a sudden noise in the distance. Quick, there's an invasion. Everyone move. The Great Elder has ordered that anyone suspicious should be killed without mercy. Go! A voice filled with killing intent resounded through the clouds. At the same time, many figures rushed towards Grace Mountain. The leader was an emperor from the True Dragon clan. His name was Xiudong, and he was in the 3rd level of the Emperor realm. Seal this place, then search carefully. Even before they arrived, Xiudong had already given the order with a cold expression. Yes, next to Xiudong, several Emperor Realm consecrated elders immediately took action. Each of them brought a group of powerful retainers and began to seal off the area where Linxiu Peak was like an overwhelming tide. Seeing this, Lin Sun couldn't help but frown. Just as he was about to leave, a sudden change occurred. Buzz! In the distant void, Sutong flipped his hand, took out a fist-sized pearl that overflowed with light, and threw it towards Grace Mountain. The golden rain of light that covered the sky suddenly spread out, and it dyed Grace Mountain a brilliant golden color. Spirit-capturing pearl, a miraculous treasure that could break through illusions and lock onto the aura of hidden cultivators. Even Emperor Realm figures couldn't avoid it. Under the golden light that covered the sky, Lin Sun's figure was exposed in the golden rain of light. Ao Tsudong was stunned at first, as if he didn't expect that he would hit the target by chance. Then, he revealed a cold and excited expression and shouted, "The thief is over there. Kill him quickly." His voice shook the 9 heavens. At the same time, Lin Sun was also surprised, but his expression returned to being calm. He was already mentally prepared for such a situation. Kill. In the distance, a group of revered elders led a group of retainers as they charged over. Their bodies glowed while monstrous power shot into the sky, and it oppressed the void to the point it exploded and collapsed. It was a terrifying scene. Those revered elders were all Emperor Realm figures from the 9 great imperial clans, and there were a total of 6 of them. Merely this lineup was sufficient to cause those Emperor Realm figures to feel despair. For a time, the light of treasures surged and whistled like the rain. Dao techniques were like the tide that enveloped the heavens and the earth, and they emitted an aura of destruction. When facing this, Lin Sun didn't dodge, and he charged forward while dense Taishian sword chi swept out like a landslide and a tsunami. Rumble. An earth-shaking rumble resounded as the sword chi crisscrossed and slashed apart all the attacks. It was dazzling, overbearing, and fierce. Before the revered elder at the front could react, the flying sword he withdrew was slashed into pieces, causing a rain of light to erupt as a few tens of Taishian sword chi enveloped him. Shit! The revered elder's expression changed, and his soul almost flew out of his body. He'd never imagined that with his current cultivation, he would actually be so weak. When he wanted to block and dodge, it was already too late. Puff, puff, puff. The revered elder's body was cut with countless sore marks, and blood splattered everywhere. He originally thought that he would definitely die, but who would have thought that these injuries, which seemed extremely serious, were actually only superficial wounds? Almost at the same time, Lin Sun's voice sounded in his ears. "If you don't want to die, then play dead for me." The revered elder from a Yazi imperial clan was stunned at first, and then he immediately realized that this guy was Lin Daoyuan. Rumble. The Taishian sword chi swept out and wreaked havoc in the heavens and the earth. At the same time that the revered elder was defeated, many people in other places were also injured. Under Lin Sun's fierce attack, almost no one could resist it. "Everyone, don't struggle. Quickly lie down and play dead. This is Taoism Lin Daoyuan." At the same time, the revered elder who'd received Lin Sun's secret message quickly transmitted the news to the others. After hearing this news, those experts who were originally shocked, and unwilling to admit defeat suddenly understood and began to act cooperatively. "Who are you? Why are you so powerful?" A white-haired old man with blood spurted out of his mouth and nose, and with a terrified expression, his body flew out fiercely and fell to the ground. "No!" A middle-aged man with a resolute and dignified appearance let out a desperate cry at this moment, and his body lay straight on the ground. "Kill! I'd rather die than—" An extremely beautiful lady rushed forward angrily, like a moth darting into the fire, but after being touched by Lin Sun's sword chi, she directly let out a mournful sigh. Am I going to die like this?" With a bang, she also fell to the ground. This string of scenes had practically occurred in a short period of a few breaths of time. As they watched those revered elders lie on the ground in misery, despair, and unwillingness, the lackeys and guards were dumbstruck, and they trembled while their entire bodies went cold. Seeing this scene, Lin Sun couldn't help but be stunned. Once the emperors acted, they were completely better actors than the other, In the distance, Ao Tsudong was utterly unaware that this scene of utter defeat was actually a profundity of sorts. At this moment, he couldn't help but gasp in shock. How could this thief be so powerful? Boom! The heaven and earth roared, and Lin Sun's body glowed with sword chi. He had already rushed over, and his deep black eyes were full of frightening, killing intent. Ao Tsudong chose to escape without hesitation, not daring to fight head-on at all. But as soon as he tried to dodge, his neck was grabbed by a big hand. The terrifying power released by the big hand instantly broke down all his defenses, and his body trembled and was firmly imprisoned. "Where are you hiding, Zhao Jingxian?" At the same time, Lin Sun's cold voice sounded, causing Ao Tsudong to tremble all over. "Bastard, this is the world of Dragon Palace. If you're not afraid of death, you can kill me." Ao Tsudong roared, his eyes red. The true dragons were all proud, and, as the rulers of this world, they were even more arrogant. They didn't believe that anyone in this world dared to commit murder in their territory. Crack! The next moment his neck was twisted off, and his soul shattered into pieces. His face was full of astonishment, as if he couldn't believe that there was really someone in this world who dared to commit murder in their territory. Lin Sun put away his body and glanced at the elders who were lying in the distance. In the end, he didn't say anything and turned away. Zhao Jingshuan's pregnancy had already become the core secret of the true dragon bloodline. Even ordinary members of the true dragon clan would not know of her whereabouts, let alone the revered elders. Lin Sun planned to go to the Great Way of All Dragons Palace to find Ao Huanhai, the patriarch of the true dragons. If he could capture this person, all the problems might be solved easily. Quick, kill him! In the distance, the void was tumbling, and many figures rushed towards Lin Sun. Obviously, these were the experts who had been alarmed by the movement just now and came to help. Boom! Lin Sun didn't want to waste time, so he exerted his real ability. His figure flashed like a sword that could open the sky, breaking through the void and striking violently. Heaven and earth were in chaos, and the void was broken. All the enemies, no matter how strong or weak, screamed and flew out in disorder, as if they had been hit by an ancient divine mountain. Some bones and tendons were broken, some skin and flesh were torn, some were bleeding from 7 orifices, and the scene was chaotic and bloody. Lin Sun's figure was like a ray of light rushing through the bloody storm. After suppressing the enemies in a crushing manner, he moved through the void and went away. All the way, he was like a hot knife through butter. Report: the enemy appeared in Lingxiu Mountain. Elder Ao Tsudong was killed. Report: the enemy broke through the encirclement and is fleeing to the east. Report: at the same time, the Dragon Palace was also alarmed. Countless experts who were searching for Lin Sun in different territories got the news almost immediately. Those high-level figures of the true dragons also took action one after another and rushed to the place where Lin Sun's trace was exposed at an incredible speed. P.S. Continue to seek guaranteed monthly votes. Chapter 2332. Report: the enemy is rushing to the palace of all dragons. When the news came out, those old monsters who were coming from all directions were shocked and couldn't believe it. The Palace of All Dragons was the core place of the real dragon bloodline. Only the lineal relatives of the patriarch could enter it. It was covered with a terrifying restrictive power and guarded by many old monsters, which was enough to prevent the emperors from entering it. Who could imagine that the thief dared to go to such a place? This completely overturned common sense, and it caused others to be unable to help but wonder if the other party had lost his mind and was intentionally courting death. Those with good intentions don't come. Hurry up, go to the Palace of All Dragons. A powerful figure of the real dragon bloodline gave the order. For a time, in the vast world of Dragon Palace, countless terrifying figures came out from their secluded places and turned into dazzling rainbows, tearing the sky and moving towards the Palace of All Dragons. Such a scene hadn't happened for many years, which alarmed all the creatures in the world of Dragon Palace. At the same time, The Emperor Realm elders from the 9 imperial clans had roughly figured out the identity of the thief who was making trouble in the Dragon Palace. They all tacitly decided to help Lin Sun if possible. However, when they discovered that the commotion was growing larger and larger, the consecrated elders of the 9 great imperial clans were unable to contain themselves from worrying. Dragons had reversed scales, and those who touched it would die. In the world of Dragon Palace, once those old dragons were enraged, how could Lin Daoyuan escape? At that time, even if they were to help, it would be of no use. Now, we can only take one step at a time. This was the plan of the 9 imperial clans. Boom! The world was shaking, the rocks were collapsing, and the void seemed to be disturbed. It was stained with the color of blood, and the rolling sound of Taoist thunder resounded through the world. On the way to the Palace of All Dragons, Lin Sun encountered an unprecedented attack, so he could no longer hide his identity as before. At this moment, his body was shining brightly, and his black hair was flying in the air. He held the shining lawless saber and rushed forward. Pooh! 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 In an instant, a few tens of experts that had encircled him were enveloped and swept away by the boundless saber chi, and they were fiercely blasted apart. Severed limbs flew in all directions while fresh blood sprayed out like a waterfall, and shrill and miserable cries resounded along with this. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep. He rushed forward on the bloody ground without any delay. The opponents he was currently facing couldn't be considered a threat and could be easily defeated. However, as time passed, more and more terrifying characters were bound to appear. Lin Sun had no doubt that the true dragon bloodline, with its strong foundation, would not allow such a situation to continue. Kill! His figure flickered like a ray of light. His cultivation base of the 2nd level of the martial Emperor Realm was activated. His entire being was like a moving abyss, crushing the heavens and earth. The silhouette of the 10,000 Dragons Palace could already be seen in the distance. It was an ancient, glorious, and divine group of buildings. They towered into the heavens and the earth, and they were bathed in surging, chaotic chi. All sorts of draconic chi intersected while the dazzling glow of treasures covered the heavens and the earth. How dare you? How dare you? In the distance, an incomparably burly figure rushed out. He was covered with a black armor and held a huge steel fork in his hand. But before he could finish his words, he was knocked away by Lin Sun's saber. His mountain-like body suddenly split into 2 halves in the air, and blood poured down like a waterfall. Lin Sun didn't even look at it. Just as he was about to rush forward, a dense rain of runes suddenly emerged in the nearby area. Layers of ancient prohibition formations were awakened from silence. Boom! Mountains rose from the ground and reached the sky. The mountains were piled up, and the rocks seemed to be made of divine gold. They were flowing with frightening fluctuations of prohibition, completely blocking the road ahead. Looking from a distance, it was like a natural mode, giving people a feeling that it was unshakable and insurmountable. Far away, the figures flying from all directions saw this scene and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Tyrannical prohibition. It was an ancient prohibition formation that had existed since ancient times. The mountains were like walls spanning the heavens and the earth, which could block the people of the martial Emperor Realm. Since the formation was born, no external enemy had been able to break it. Thief, let's see where you can escape. An old monster grinned proudly, and his voice was louder than thunder. But as soon as he finished his words, in the distance, Lin Sun moved directly to the tyrannical prohibition without any pause. It was like an ant trying to shake a tree or an egg hitting a stone. But strangely, his figure flickered, and then he shuttled through the Taoist prohibition and disappeared in the blink of an eye. As for the tyrannical prohibition, only a string of runes rippled like a tide. The old monster's face suddenly froze, and he was dumbfounded. What's going on? The old monsters chasing from different directions also couldn't believe it, as if they had seen a ghost. Hurry up! Remove the tyrannical prohibition. An old monster was so angry that he roared hoarsely. The faces of the other experts were all burning up. This hegemonic seal was an ancient seal of their true dragon bloodline. Yet, not only did it not stop the enemy, it even stopped the people of the true dragon clan. This was simply like slapping themselves in the face. At the same time, Lin Sun, who had easily broken through the formation, looked calm and composed, and looked into the distance. Although the tyrannical restriction was powerful, it was nothing to a peak great emperor like him who grew up playing with spiritual tattoos. It was not worth mentioning. At this time, he could clearly see the great way of all Dragon's palace on the horizon in the distance. Ao Huanhai, such a big movement has happened. Are you going to not show up? Lin Sun's black eyes were cold. Ao Huanhai, the current patriarch of the real dragon bloodline, was called Wanjue Dragon Emperor. He was an old man with a terrible background. It was said that Wanjue Dragon Emperor was iron-blooded, decisive, and resourceful. He was also the most feared and dominating figure in the true dragon world. The reason why Lin Sun made such a big movement and rushed here was to force Ao Huanhai to reveal the whereabouts of Zhao Jingxian. It was not that Lin Sun was rash and bold, but he had no other choice. According to his understanding, Ao Huanhai was determined to keep the child born by him and Zhao Jingxian, no matter what price he had to pay, since he dared to block the news of the meeting of all dragons and sink the road to the other side of the starry sky. The reason was very simple. The child's talent was too amazing. He had the ancestral blood of the real dragon and the talent of the devouring abyss, which was absolutely unprecedented and unique since ancient times. If Ao Huanhai really kept the child and raised him, the child would follow the surname Ao. If you don't come out, I'll go to find you. Lin Sun took a deep breath, moved the void, and rushed to the great way of all Dragon's palace in the distance. Clatter, all of a sudden, wisps of purple golden flames emerged and spread to all directions of the market, enveloping Lin Sun with the momentum of encirclement. Looking down from the sky, it was like a circle of purple golden flame appeared, and Lin Sun was trapped in it. In a moment, Lin Sun felt that this space was confined and blocked, and he could not move anymore. At the same time, a fatal threat spread. Young man, the world of Dragon Palace is not a place that anyone can break. Your performance is very good. If I am right, you should be a peerless great emperor. A deep and hoarse voice was heard. It was neither fast nor slow. It was filled with a despair-inducing aura. Great Emperor Zhu Yun is extremely rare. Only in the other side of the universe can Great Emperor Zhu Yun be seen, and there are only a few of them. Along with the voice, an old man with a golden dragon beard, wearing a golden robe and golden eyes appeared out of thin air. Clatter with his appearance. The circle of purple golden flame, which was spreading to Lin Sun, also stopped in the void at this moment, burning quietly, emitting a strange and dangerous aura. The golden-robed old man looked at Lin Sun in the distance indifferently and said, "But you didn't come from the other side of the starry sky. Before the ancient way of starry sky was destroyed, there hadn't been a peerless great emperor on the ancient way of starry sky for nearly 100,000 years. Let me guess, you may have become a great emperor in the last few decades." The golden-robed old man said, and his golden eyes burst out a terrible divine light, as if he wanted to see through Lin Sun. He was very terrible, and his aura covered the sky and the sun. He confined the space in all directions with golden divine fire, like a spider on a spider's web, preying on the insects trapped in the net. Just that kind of power alone. He was even stronger than Emperor Baki in the 8th level of the Emperor realm. There was no doubt that this golden-robed old man was an extremely ancient existence in the Dragon Clan. Because of his bloodline, such a great emperor had a terrible foundation that could suppress the same realm. At least, Lin Sun felt a fatal threat at this moment. But he remained calm and said, "Where is Ao Huanhai?" The golden-robed old man frowned. "How dare you call the name of the patriarch of my clan directly? Tell me, why are you here? If you resist, I don't mind getting rid of the great emperor of Zhuing today." Majestic, confident, indifferent, and high above, Lin Sun's response was very simple. Release the dog. With a swoosh, Big Yellow soared into the sky and slapped with its paw to crush the golden divine fire in all directions, causing it to disperse like rain and scatter in the air. The golden-robed old man's pupils shrank. An old worm in the 8th level of the Emperor realm, good lord. Big Yellow looked at the golden-robed old man in surprise, and then saliva flowed out of its mouth. Its eyes were filled with passion and greed. This pot can't be stewed anymore, but it's fine. Let's take out the dragon liver first to satisfy our craving. Swoosh. As he spoke, Big Yellow moved the void in a hurry, like an impatient customer, howling and rushing towards the golden-robed old man in the distance. Lin Sun, go on, leave this old worm to me. Chapter 23:33. The golden-robed old man was so angry that his nose was almost crooked. Being treated as a meal by a dog was a great humiliation that he had never suffered before. Since when did a big yellow dog dare to be so arrogant in front of a great emperor of the Dragon Clan? He was courting death, but when he saw Big Yellow pouncing towards him, the golden-robed old man's heart skipped a beat. He sensed danger, and something was wrong. He attacked without hesitation. Boom! The surging dragon might turned into a monstrous golden wave that blotted out the sky. The golden-robed old man stretched out his fingers, and the void exploded. This was a real dragon claw that could tear the sky and crush the stars. Big Yellow also stretched out his claw and slapped the void fiercely. It was as if the heaven and earth had been smashed by a giant hammer. Terrifying turbulence burst out. The golden-robed old man let out a muffled groan. He staggered back a few steps from the impact of this head-on attack. His expression changed immediately. When he looked at Big Yellow again, his eyes were completely different. This dog was actually a peerless character in the 9th level of the Emperor realm. This was completely beyond his imagination. It was already rare for such a weak dog to be able to cultivate, but to be able to reach the 9th level of the Emperor realm, it was absolutely shocking. TSK, the blood chi and foundation of the old dragon's bloodline are indeed incomparable to ordinary creatures. Big Yellow exclaimed. The bloodline of the true dragon stood above all other races and was regarded as the overlord of the innate life forms. Their bloodline, physique, strength, and foundation were all terrifying and could suppress all races. Take this golden-robed old man, for example. Although he was only in the 8th level of the Emperor realm, his strength and foundation were not ordinary. Swoosh! The lawless saber turned into a snow-white light and was thrown to Big Yellow by Lin Sun. Big Yellow, finish this quickly. We can't waste any more time. Big Yellow's eyes lit up as he held the lawless saber in his paw. How could he not know that this treasure was one of the Kunlun monarch weapons? It was an incredible treasure. Today I, Battle Emperor shall slay the dragon. With an excited roar, Big Yellow rushed forward again. He couldn't slash with his saber anymore. The heaven and earth were suddenly plunged into a vast expanse of snow-white saber light. After a glance, Lin Sun turned around and continued to fly toward the palace of 10,000 dragons. The closer they got, the more they were able to sense how grand, beautiful, and magnificent the palace of myriad dragons was. Divine radiance flowed while chaos suffused it, and it stood towering in the heavens and the earth like the residence of the gods of legend. It was extremely divine. Chi, a flying sword, flew over, dragging along sword chi that was tens of thousands of feet long. Countless sword shadows and scarlet light blossomed in an instant. It was like a scarlet purgatory sweeping across the sky. It was too fast. The aura branded on this flying sword was boundlessly terrifying as well, and it seemed as if it could pierce through the sun and moon and slash through the heavens. When it was about to hit Lin Sun, a spear that was suffused with dreamy starlight flashed out, and the tip of the spear flicked up. Clang! The flying sword was forcefully blocked. A cry of surprise resounded in the distant wilderness, followed by the appearance of a handsome young man with flaming purple hair. This was clearly an old monster. When his pupils opened and closed, an ancient aura pervaded the air. At the same time, Xia Ji, who was wearing a black robe and a hood that covered her face, immediately locked onto the purple-haired young man with her white-boned spear. "Can I?" Lin Sun asked. "Yes." Xia Ji nodded calmly. Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep as he looked at the purple-haired young man. He recognized that the young man was not as powerful as the golden-robed old man and was only at the 7th level of the Emperor realm. Lin Sun said, "Yellow will come to support you later. Don't fight desperately." After saying that, Lin Sun turned around and left. Time was really tight. If all the old fogies of the real dragon bloodline caught up with him and besieged him, the situation would become serious. Boom! Behind him, there was an earth-shattering sound of battle, which shocked all the people. Lin Sun didn't need to look back to know that Xia Ji had already fought with the purple-haired young man. "Ao, Huan Hai, if you don't come out, don't blame me for trampling the palace of myriad dragons." Lin Sun took a deep breath, and his eyes were full of determination. The palace of myriad dragons. In a magnificent palace, the 2nd prince, the 3rd prince, the 5th prince, the 6th prince, the 8th prince, and the 3 dragon ladies of Dragon Palace gathered together. 4th brother and 7th brother have been captured, and the thief is coming to kill us. 2nd brother, what do you think we should do? The 8th prince of Dragon Palace, who was still young, showed an anxious look. His name was Ao Yinchuan, and he was only at the Saint King realm. "What are you afraid of?" "This is the world of Dragon Palace, the territory of the real dragon bloodline. Since the Palace of Myriad Dragons was built, it has never been invaded by foreign enemies." A tall man in a white robe said lazily. His name was Ao Tianyu, the 2nd prince of Dragon Palace. Lying on the soft couch, he looked calm and disdainful. "What's more, how could those old fogies let the thief come here?" Many people laughed. A beautiful woman in an emerald green dress with a unique sense of aloofness and pride said indifferently, "2nd brother is right. That scoundrel is dead for sure. The only thing worth worrying about now is what happened to 4th brother and 7th brother. They'll be fine. If the thief dared to kill us, he would have killed 4th brother and 7th brother. But now, their life soul lamps are still there, and they are extremely strong. This proves that the thief is very likely to know the danger of breaking into the world of Dragon Palace, so he used their lives as a trump card to threaten us." An extremely tall man with eyes like lightning and hair like halberd said in a deep voice. He was the 5th prince of Dragon Palace, Ao Tianhe. "This matter is indeed a little troublesome. However, as long as 4th brother and 7th brother are still alive, we will definitely be able to rescue them. What I am puzzled about is who in the true dragon world would dare to come to our territory and commit murder." The 2nd prince, Ao Tianyu, said in a low voice, "What is the purpose of this thief?" Everyone looked at each other and shook their heads to show that they didn't know. Right at this moment, a hoarse and low voice suddenly resounded in the hall. "Gentlemen and ladies, stay here and don't move. The thief has arrived in front of the Great Road of all Dragon's Palace." The moment he said that, the dragon princes and princesses were shocked. There were many horrible prohibitions in the world of Dragon Palace, and every area was guarded by old monsters and elders of the real dragon tribe. Under such circumstances, the thief could still break into the world of Dragon Palace, which was undoubtedly shocking. "Don't worry. 6th granduncle and others are here. Nothing will happen." The 2nd prince, Ao Tianyu, took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Let's stay here. Before the danger is over, no one is allowed to act without permission outside the Great Road of all Dragon's Palace." When Lin Sun arrived, he saw many figures waiting in the void in the distance. There were men and women with different appearances, but all of them had a horrible aura. The leader was a thin man in a cyan robe. He put his hands behind his back, and there were the sun and the moon in his grayish-brown pupils, which was extremely frightening. Dragon Emperor Ruosu, an old monster in the 9th level of the Emperor realm, who had lived for countless years, was extremely angry in the real dragon bloodline. There were 3 men and 1 woman beside him, all of whom were extremely old figures in the real dragon bloodline. They guarded near the Great Road of All Dragon's palace all year round. A peerless great emperor came uninvited and killed his way here. You do have some ability. A man in silver armor said coldly. His whole body exuded a strong, murderous aura, which developed a horrible scene of mountains of corpses and seas of blood, and the destruction of all things. Dragon Emperor Yongfeng, tell me, who are you and why are you here? A thunderous voice sounded, and the one who spoke was a cold and aloof woman. Her slender figure was shrouded in a layer of mysterious black and white light, and her aura was cold and frightening. Mist Blood Dragon Emperor, like Dragon Emperor Yongfeng, she was also in the 8th level of the Emperor realm. As for the remaining 2 men, one had blood-red hair, fair skin, and narrow eyes. His emperor title was Ping Hai. The other had an old face, and his pupils were like burning blue flames. His emperor title was Star Demon. Both of them were in the 7th level of the Emperor realm. In the outside world, 1 9th level of the Emperor realm, 2 8th level of the Emperor realm, and 2 7th level of the Emperor realm was already a magnificent lineup. It was enough to sweep away a region and make thousands of sects in the heavens afraid. Even on the starry sky ancient road, it could make those first-class ancient orthodoxies tremble. But now, such a lineup was guarding the great road of All Dragon's palace, and all of their chi was locked on Lin Sun. Who is Ao Huanhai? Lin Sun's black eyes were indifferent and calm. He didn't show any trace of emotion. But this surprised Dragon Emperor Ruo, Su, and the others. Young man, you killed your way into the Dragon Palace world just to find my patriarch? Dragon Emperor Ruo, Su frowned. Then why don't you tell me why you are looking for my patriarch? You will know when you see him, Lin Sun said calmly. Lin Sun said calmly. He would not reveal his purpose so easily. If he gave the enemy time and opportunity, it was very likely that he would hide Zhao Jingxian in advance. Arrogant. Who do you think you are? How dare you be so arrogant? Hand over the 4th prince and the 7th prince, or you will die today. Dragon Emperor Yin Feng roared. His voice shattered the void, and the heavens and earth trembled. His silver armor emitted a horrifying, bloody light of slaughter, which was extremely terrifying. If it was any other person, this roar would shatter their divine soul and kill them on the spot. But Lin Sun acted as if nothing had happened and said coldly, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. If I don't see Ao Huanhai today, then don't blame me for destroying the great road of All Dragon's palace. His voice wasn't loud, but resounded clearly in the heavens and earth. Hearing this, Ruo Su, Yin Feng, Lan Shui, Ping Hai, and Star Demon, the 5 extremely senior existences couldn't help but be stunned. Then, they couldn't help but laugh. Their eyes were full of mockery and disdain, as if they had heard a ridiculous joke. This was the great road of All Dragon's palace. It was the core of the true dragon bloodline. Since ancient times, no external enemy had been able to break through. But now, a mere peak-level great emperor dared to overestimate his own strength and clamor to destroy this place? How is this different from a joke? P.S. Brothers, take note. We'll be on our way tomorrow, so it's very likely that the updates won't be stable. But I'm really proud that I haven't stopped updating these days when I was abroad. Chapter 23:34. Destroying the Great Dao 10,000 Dragon Palace was something that even the living beings of the true dragon world did not dare to imagine. That was why Emperor Ruo Su and the others were laughing so recklessly. They did not deny that Lin Sun's combat strength was unparalleled since he was able to sneak into the Dragon Palace and reach the Great Dao Palace of all dragons despite being surrounded. But that did not mean that he could destroy the Great Dao Palace of all dragons. Let me take a look at this shameless Great Emperor Ju Ying. Suddenly, the Star Demon Dragon Emperor stepped forward. His aged face was filled with coldness, and his skinny figure exuded the terrifying aura of a 7th-level emperor. Moreover, it was not something an ordinary 7th-level emperor could compare to. Young man, every dragon has a reverse scale. Those who touch it will die. You are unforgivable. The Star Demon Dragon Emperor pressed his palm forward, and a giant pale green dragon claw materialized in the void. The dragon claw was covered in mysterious green dragon scales, and thick chains of the power of the great Tao law wrapped around it. As soon as the dragon claw reached out, the sky and earth shattered like paper. From afar, it looked like the hand of heaven was reaching out to the mortal world. Lin Sun's eyes were cold, and he stood still. But as he wielded, a formless sword aura burst out and buzzed wildly in the void. The power of heaven and earth that was distributed in all directions was engulfed by a storm and poured into the sword. Boom! The sword aura pierced through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and the sword will exuded a power that could pierce one's heart. It was an extremely determined, killing intent, just like Lin Sun's current state of mind. Even if he were to enter the depths of the dragon's lair, he would still destroy all obstacles. This was the heart sword doctrine. The heart of Taoism was like a sword, and the sword was like one's heart. Under this sword, all Taos would become nothing. Crack! The azure dragon claw exploded like fragile glass when it came into contact with the sword chi, and as the sword chi slashed out, a huge chasm seemed to have been fiercely plowed open in this expanse of the heavens and the earth. At the end of the ravine was the star demon dragon emperor. When he tried to dodge, the sword that was filled with determination and killing intent was already upon him. He could only take it head-on. Open! He roared, and the roar of a dragon shook the 9 heavens. In an instant, he seemed to have transformed into a primeval azure dragon that tore through the ages to arrive here. His enormous body coiled around him while the might of a dragon emanated from him, and then a myriad of strands of azure divine radiance charged out with the intention of obliterating that sword strike. However, the Star Demon Dragon Emperor had greatly underestimated the power of Lin Sun's sword. He had also neglected the fact that Lin Sun had no intention of wasting time from the start. He had decided to end the battle quickly. Rumble. The world rumbled, and the sun and moon lost their light. Lin Sun's sword chi crushed down inch by inch, and the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's resistance crumbled inch by inch. Boundless divine radiance sprayed out like a rain of thunder. In the end, the Star Demon Dragon Emperor let out a roar of rage and indignation. His body was sent flying as if he couldn't bear the weight of the attack. A long sword wound appeared on his body, and he was drenched in blood. The terrifying sword chi had severely injured his internal organs. With a bang, he fell fiercely in front of the great Tao 10,000 Dragons Palace. Blood sprayed from his mouth and nose, and his face was ghastly pale. He was already heavily injured and on the verge of death. A single strike had heavily injured a 7th-level martial emperor of the Dragon Clan. This scene caused the expressions of Ruo Su, Yin Feng, Lan Shui, Ping Hai, and the other seniors to change. Their pupils constricted, and they felt slight disbelief. As a member of the true dragon bloodline, his natural talent, resources, and strength were all superior to those in the same cultivation realm. Even though the Star Demon Dragon Emperor hadn't stepped onto the extreme path of cultivation, he was far stronger than an ordinary 7th-level martial emperor. But now, he was defeated by a peak martial emperor who was only at the 2nd level of the martial emperor realm. He was heavily injured by a single strike and almost died. This was undoubtedly very terrifying. Lin Sun couldn't help but feel slightly surprised. Long ago, when he broke through to the 2nd level of the martial emperor realm in the profound god world of the Xian clan, his combat strength was already sufficient to easily kill a 7th-level martial emperor. But now, the Star Demon Dragon Emperor was merely heavily injured. Thus, as one of the 4 great innate spirit clans, the true dragon bloodline was indeed blessed by nature. Even though he thought like this in his heart, his movements didn't slow down at all, and he slashed out again without the slightest hesitation. Swoosh! Sword chi swept out in an extremely magnificent and dazzling manner. But what was most frightening was the speed of this sword. It had already reached a horrifying level, and it was enough to stun the world. It was just a single sword, but it seemed to be able to chase after the stars and the moon, and it could pierce through the restraints of time and space. This sword was called instant slash. It was a supreme sword Dao inheritance from Junhuan. The core of this sword Dao lay in the word speed. It was so fast that it could stun the world. Bastard. Dragon Emperor Ruo Su was the first to react, and he immediately teleported to the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's aid. He stretched out his palm, and a giant circular light shadow suddenly appeared in the void. Puffed. The sword slashed out, and the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's head fell to the ground. But before the head could fall into the air, it was enveloped by the circular light shadow that Dragon Emperor Ruo Su had drawn out. The light shadow forcefully pressed the severed head down, and it was stuffed into the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's neck. Seeing this, Dragon Emperor Ruo Su couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. If he hadn't acted in time, the terrifying power contained in this sword alone would have been enough to turn the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's head into dust and wipe out his Yuan Shun. He didn't dare to waste any more time, and he immediately helped the Star Demon Dragon Emperor to heal his wounds. At the same time, the three Dragon Emperors, Yin Feng, Mist Blood, and Ping Hai, attacked Lin Sun without hesitation. Tut! The Yin Feng Dragon Emperor was clad in silver armor, and an unparalleled murderous aura filled the sky. As he let out a Dao sound, a blood-red flying sword whizzed out, rolling up a bloody rain that dyed the sky red. Rise! The slender figure of the Mist Blood Dragon Emperor moved across the void, and a fiery red jade cauldron appeared between his slender and fair fingers. The jade cauldron was engraved with a strange dragon pattern, and the divine flame that spewed out from it had the power to burn the heavens and destroy the earth. Clang! The blood-red hair of the Pinghai Dragon Emperor fluttered in the wind. He held a golden trident in his hand, and with a flick of his wrist, a terrifying, murderous aura spread out from the blade like a broken dam, stirring up the winds and clouds in the sky. 2 8th-level Emperor Realm and 1 7th-level Emperor Realm. Such a combination was also extremely terrifying, at least since Lin Sun stepped into the 2nd level of the Emperor Realm. This was the first time he had encountered such a pincer attack. Rumble. The heavens and earth turned upside down, and the void shook. In front of the great path palace of all dragons, there were deafening Dao sounds, dazzling divine halos, and all kinds of shocking phenomena. If such a battle between emperors took place in the outside world, countless mountains, rivers, and cities would have been destroyed. Fortunately, there were countless ancient prohibitions in front of the great path palace of all dragons, so the aftermath of the battle between emperors was constantly neutralized. Lin Sun did not intend to fight to the death. He came here to find Ao Huanhai and interrogate him about Zhao Jingshuan's whereabouts. How could he waste his time and energy in such a battle? A dreamy and graceful figure suddenly rushed out, holding the great path Empyrean spear in her fair hand, and charged into the battlefield. This was also one of Lin Sun's biggest trump cards. How terrifying was she's combat strength? What happened next also made Lin Sun a little stunned. Then, when she walked, a rain of light intertwined with the law of order, and a great path Empyrean spear pierced gently. Clang! Amidst the deafening explosion, the golden trident in the hands of the calming Sea Dragon Emperor was suddenly shattered. Amidst the rain of light, the cold tip of the spear pierced into the throat of the Linghai Dragon Emperor with irresistible force. And then a light slash. The throat of the calming Sea Dragon Emperor, who was at the 7th level of the Emperor Realm, was pierced by Shi's spear. His body was also split in half, and blood poured down like torrential rain. Calming Sea, the 2 Dragon Emperors, Yin Feng and Lan Shui, widened their eyes in anger. They could not believe their eyes. In an instant, Calming Sea died just like that. Who would dare to believe it? When Lin Sun saw this, he could not help but sigh. This was completely overwhelming combat strength. Only then could he kill a 7th-level Emperor Realm Dragon Emperor so easily. One could imagine that Shi's combat strength had already evolved to an unimaginable level after cultivating in the door to heaven all these years. Thinking about it, it made sense. An existence who could fight with the purple-robed woman, Yin Xing, a woman who could go against the forbidden order power in the sky back in the ancient desolation region, a person who the head of the Xian family, Xian Shanshan, called senior. How could he be compared to an ordinary person? However, she seemed to be unaware of all this. His expression was cold and indifferent. He waved the heavenless spear and charged towards the Mist Blood Dragon Emperor in a flash. Buzz! The Mist Blood Dragon Emperor did not hesitate to use all his strength to activate the fiery red jade cauldron to the extreme. He poured all his cultivation into it. The jade cauldron suddenly produced a strange roar, and an endless rain of fire laws appeared. The heaven and earth were burning red. The rocks, plants, and the earth were all melted into liquid. It was strange and terrifying. She was a powerful existence. As he waved the heavenless spear, layers of spear shadows covered the sky and the earth, sweeping away the rain of fire that was coming towards him. She had already arrived in front of the Mist Blood Dragon Emperor. The latter was so shocked that his hair stood on end and his soul almost came out of his body. Poof! Her slender waist was severed by the heavenless spear, and an all-conquering and terrifying force was released, causing the two halves of her body to be instantly drowned and obliterated. Both her body and soul were completely destroyed. An existence in the 8th level of the Emperor realm couldn't even take one blow from she. The rain of blood was splattering, and the Tao light was roaring. Lin Sun couldn't help but gasp when he saw Shi's slender and dreamy figure. Just how terrifying was his cultivation to be able to do this? At this moment, Lin Sun suddenly remembered what Goldie said to Shi with envy and respect when he saw him. You've already reached that level? At that time, she nodded his head casually. Lin Sun couldn't guess what level that was. However, he knew that Goldie, a domineering and arrogant fellow who even dared to chase after a 9th level of the Emperor realm, was envious of Shi's level. One could imagine how extraordinary she was now. At this moment, a furious roar came from the battlefield. It was Dragon Emperor Ruo Su's roar. It was like a thunderclap from the 9th heaven, full of rage. Obviously, the consecutive deaths of Ping Hai and Mist Blood Dragon Emperors had greatly provoked Dragon Emperor Ruo Su, who was trying to save the Star Demon Dragon Emperor. Chapter 23:35. The Taoist light was like rain, and the blood was like a tide. As soon as she appeared, she first killed the sea-conquering Dragon Emperor, and then the Mist Blood Dragon Emperor. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. It was incredibly fast. That kind of demeanor was outstanding in the world, transcending the world. By the time Dragon Emperor Ruo Su realized what had happened, it was already too late to save Shi. The bloody scene enraged him completely, and his face was pale and twisted. Although the true dragon bloodline had a terrifying foundation that surpassed all living beings in the true dragon world, there was a limit to how many of them could become emperors. The sea-conquering Dragon Emperor and the Mist Blood Dragon Emperor were definitely the core existences of the true dragon bloodline. Their deaths were a great loss. Bastard, all of you deserve to die. Dragon Emperor Ruo Su roared. His face was pale, and his voice was filled with endless hatred. Boom! He dashed out and took out a dazzling Taoist sword, which he slashed at Shi in the distance. She originally wanted to take advantage of the situation to kill Dragon Emperor Muffled Wind. However, at this moment, she seemed to have sensed danger. She stopped abruptly, and the heavenless spear in her hand emitted a terrifying and ferocious aura. She stabbed at the Taoist sword that was slashing at her. Clang! An explosion that shook the heavens and the earth resounded. The clouds in the surroundings collapsed, and the space 10 kilometers away rumbled and collapsed. On the battlefield, the sword and the spear collided, and a terrifying, murderous aura burst forth. The power released caused the sun and moon to tremble, and the mountains and rivers to collapse. She could not help but be surprised. Formless sword? At the same time, Lin Sun acutely sensed that the piece of copper left by the Kunlun refining source cauldron had become boiling hot. This made him immediately determine that the dazzling Taoist sword was definitely one of the 9 emperor weapons of Kunlun, the formless sword. However, Lin Sun did not expect that the only Taoist sword among the 9 emperor weapons of Kunlun would fall into the hands of the true dragon bloodline. In the distance, Dragon Emperor Ruo Su was also shocked as he recognized the Great Wei Heavenless Spear. Boom! As she exerted force, the Heavenless Spear erupted with unparalleled light, and the Taoist sword was forcefully pushed back. Suffering such an impact, Dragon Emperor Ruo Su was also shaken to the point that he staggered. The aura around him was turbulent, and his expression changed immediately. The thing that caught him off guard the most was that at this instant, he was keenly aware that the phaseless sword that had always been firmly controlled by his mind actually had a kind of violent struggle at this moment, as if it wanted to break free and fly away. Not good. Emperor Ruo Su was both shocked and furious, and he flicked his sleeve to cause 18 flags to soar through the sky. Every single flag was covered in mysterious dragon markings, and they contained obscure and mysterious fluctuations of the laws. As soon as they appeared, this expanse of the heavens and the earth was instantly covered in an expanse of mist. Great illusory mist divine array. Being trapped in the fog, not only were his 6 senses blocked, even his mind and soul sensitivity were greatly hindered. Lin Sun frowned and sensed it calmly. After a while, he suddenly punched out. Boom! The grand formation roiled, and the mist seemed as if it was being ravaged by a hurricane. It swiftly dispersed, and the 18 formation flags that were scattered around the surroundings exploded inch by inch. Obviously, such an illusory formation couldn't trap Lin at all. Aside from Shi and himself, the 3 dragon emperors, Ruo Su, Yin Feng, and Star Demon, were nowhere to be seen. They've escaped. Shi's pair of clear eyes looked towards the great 10,000 Dragon Palace. Lin Sun followed his gaze and saw Dragon Emperor Ruo Su in a green robe, Dragon Emperor Yin Feng in silver armor, and Star Demon Dragon Emperor, who was severely injured and on the verge of death, standing on the most magnificent and ancient palace in the distance. The 3 of them looked extremely livid, and their eyes were filled with anger and hatred. Who are you? Dragon Emperor Ruo Su roared, and his voice shook the heavens. Everything that had happened previously made him realize that Lin Sun and Shi were definitely not ordinary people, and they could not even be the experts of the true dragon world. Lin Sun's black eyes were cold as he said, "Who we are is not important. What's important is that even at this time, Ao Huanhai, the dignified true dragon clan leader, dares not show himself." Humph! Dragon Emperor Ruo Su's face turned ugly. The more Lin Sun met Ao Huanhai, the more he felt that something was wrong, so he naturally could not tell Ao Huanhai. What made Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the others most disappointed was that this was the world of the Dragon Palace, but Ao Huanhai had actually defeated them so badly that they could only hide in the great 10,000 Dragon Palace. That was undoubtedly a great humiliation. If news of this spread, the reputation and power of the true dragon bloodline was destined to be destroyed. Who were they? Why did they come? And why did they insist on meeting the clan leader? Countless doubts surged in the minds of Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the others. But no matter what the reason was, they could not allow Lin Sun and the others to leave this time. Xia Ji's figure suddenly appeared in the distance. Her figure was lonely, and her aura was cold. Her body was still filled with a lingering, sharp, killing intent. Lin Sun, is this still edible? When she came, she carried a bloody body that was riddled with holes, and the flesh was torn. Looking closely, it was the purple-robed young man with the combat strength of the 7th level Emperor realm. There was a moment of silence. Everyone looked at Xia Ji, and the expressions of Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the others were extremely interesting. Anger, malevolence, shock, disbelief, Shiwedding. Dragon Emperor Yong Feng let out a furious roar. The purple-haired young man killed by Xia Ji was his younger brother, Ao Shiwedding. He was an extremely talented 7th level Emperor Realm cultivator, and it would not take long for him to reach the 8th level Emperor Realm. But now, Ao Shiwedding was killed, and his opponent even saw him as food. This made Dragon Emperor Yong Feng's hair stand on end, and he was so angry that his eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Lin Sun said, "Put it away first. We might have to kill more old worms today." Ji nodded. From beginning to end, she appeared extremely calm and casual. "Everyone, the enemy has arrived at our city. They killed our clansmen and humiliated our dignity. If we don't get rid of them, how can we, the true dragon bloodline, maintain our prestige?" Star Demon Dragon Emperor roared in anger. "Aha! Why are you all hiding in the great path palace of 10,000 dragons? Come, 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 I will stand here and wait for you stinky worms to come and fight me." With a swoosh, the void fluctuated, and Big Yellow appeared with the shiny, invincible saber in his hand. He challenged Dragon Emperor Ruo, Su, and the others in an extremely arrogant manner. At the same time, his voice also came into Lin Sun's ears. "I have killed that old bastard at the 8th level of the Emperor realm. But we have to act quickly. It won't be long before the surrounding area will be besieged by the experts coming from all directions." Lin Sun's dark eyes were deep, and he nodded. At this moment, "Open the formation." Dragon Emperor Ruo Su let out a thunderous roar, full of determination. Looking at Dragon Emperor Yongfeng and Star Demon, their eyes were full of coldness and madness. Between the heaven and the earth, an extremely dangerous aura suddenly spread. From all directions, between the vast mountains and rivers, countless complicated and mysterious Taoist patterns and formations gushed out almost at the same time, blotting out the sky and covering the sun. And at this moment, the magnificent, sacred, great path palace of 10,000 dragons, which was like the dwelling place of all deities, also emitted endless, dazzling light rain at this moment, interweaving into billions of stars and boundless galaxies. Just the aura released from it made the heaven and earth fall into an extremely oppressive and terrifying atmosphere. Rumble. Divine brilliance flowed, and Taoist sound spread out like a tide. The heaven and earth changed, as if it had turned into a vast starry sky, with galaxies flowing and Taoist light filling the sky. Lin Sun and the others sensed the danger at the first moment, but it was already too late to hide, because the void in all directions and the boundless heaven and earth were completely sealed at the first moment. No matter where he fled to or where he hid, he was bound to be trapped in this terrifying formation that could be said to be supreme. At the same time, all the territories of the Dragon Palace were alarmed. The taboo formation of the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons. Could it be that the thief has already killed his way to the core of our clan, and even those old antiques couldn't stop him? An uproar broke out. The taboo formation of the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons was regarded as the lifeline of defense of the true dragon bloodline, and its terrifying power was enough to kill an emperor ancestor. Rumor had it that the taboo formation of the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons even gave birth to a Taoist pattern formation spirit. A Taoist pattern spirit that had life fluctuations. We've all underestimated the terror of our opponent. Fortunately, the taboo formation has been activated. No matter how strong our opponent is, he will definitely be killed. The many experts of the true dragon clan who were rushing to the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons from all directions had extremely complicated expressions when they saw this scene. There was no doubt that they had indeed underestimated their opponent this time. Perhaps it was because they had been superior for too long, or perhaps it was because they had not experienced such a dangerous situation for countless years. This time, Lin Sun had sneaked into the world of the Dragon Palace, captured the 4th prince and the 7th prince, and then killed his way to the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons, which had brought too many surprises and shocks to them. From the initial disbelief to the current flustered and exasperated rage, they clearly realized just how dangerous their opponent was this time. This was definitely an unprecedented disaster that the true dragon bloodline had encountered since its existence until now. Fortunately, now that the taboo formation had been activated, the anxious and furious experts of the true dragon bloodline secretly heaved a sigh of relief. What should we do? The consecrated elders from the 9 imperial clans were left with only coldness and despair at this moment. Even the taboo formation had been activated. Could that guy named Lin Daoyuan still walk out of the world of the Dragon Palace alive? Under such circumstances, it was impossible for them to rescue him even if they wanted to. Rumble, in the world of the Dragon Palace, with the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons as the center, a giant ancient formation kept rumbling, and boundless Taoist light and divine brilliance surged out, drowning the heaven and earth. The mountains and rivers were all dimmed, and everything in the void was turned into powder. An ancient formation that could kill an emperor ancestor was activated, and it could even make a world tremble. The laws of heaven and earth were distorted and disordered, and it completely collapsed. Billions of stars transformed into a river of stars that surged and flowed in the void. This was the manifestation of the terrifying power derived from the Great Formation, and it was like a real world. As for Lin Sun and his companions, they seemed to have been abandoned by the world and were trapped in it. I'd like to see how long you can struggle this time. In the Great Path Palace of 10,000 dragons, Dragon Emperor Ruoxu's cold laughter, which was filled with endless hatred, resounded. Chapter 23:36. Hundreds of millions of stars rotated in the sky, making Lin Sun feel extremely small and powerless. These were all derived from the taboo formation. This formation has the power to kill the emperor ancestor. At this moment, Big Yellow's expression had become solemn. It's indeed not simple. Perhaps this is the true heritage of the true dragon bloodline. Otherwise, this clan would have been destroyed long ago, given their proud nature. Xi's body was covered with a rain of light and intertwined Dharma laws. His cold voice also became solemn. Xi looked at Lin Sun. Lin Sun's eyes were deep and surging with a strange light. He looked calm, as usual, and did not show any trace of panic. On the contrary, there was a hint of strangeness in his eyes. Why did this taboo formation, which was regarded as the lifeline of defense by the true dragon bloodline, feel so familiar? Rumble, a group of dazzling burning comets whizzed over like torrential rain. The aura they emitted was enough to make any Emperor Realm cultivator tremble. Just when Xi and Big Yellow wanted to resist, they were stopped by Lin Sun. "Follow me." As soon as Lin Sun finished speaking, his figure flashed and swept towards the depths of the starry sky. He ignored the oncoming comets. Xi followed him closely. Xi and Big Yellow looked at each other and finally resisted the urge to attack and followed Lin Sun. Then, a strange scene appeared. The comets, which were as dense as raindrops, were roaring towards Lin Sun, but they disappeared into thin air after Lin Sun's figure made a mysterious trajectory. Xi and Big Yellow were both stunned. They both realized that Lin Sun seemed to know the changes and killing tribulations of this formation like the back of his hand. At the same time, Lin Sun transmitted his voice, "With my current strength, I may not be able to break this formation, but it's not difficult for me to break out. Let's act according to the situation later and try to suppress them with the force of a thunderbolt." As he spoke, he continued to move forward. Rumble, the formation roared, and hundreds of millions of stars rotated, evolving into all kinds of killing tribulations, which rushed towards Lin Sun and the others from all directions. There were dense, falling comets, dancing galaxies, strange nebula vortexes, and every single attack had the power to annihilate ghostly immortals and suppress monarch realm cultivators. It was extremely terrifying. Xi and Goldie, who followed closely behind Lin Sun, felt depressed and throbbing, especially Goldie, who broke out in a cold sweat from time to time. The power of the formation was too horrible. It was no exaggeration to say that if Lin Sun didn't lead the way, it couldn't help worrying how many times it could resist. Even though she had remained silent all along the way, she was able to determine that if it was any other Emperor Realm expert that was trapped here, that person would have probably been blasted to death a long time ago. Because of this, the way Xi and Goldie looked at Lin Sun, who was leading the way, changed. They didn't expect him to be able to stroll leisurely in such a dangerous formation, as if he was walking on flat ground. In the outside world, many figures had already gathered from all directions and were standing far away outside the taboo formation. They were all important figures from different territories of the Dragon Palace, as well as the Emperor Realm elders who served the true dragon bloodline. Looking at the taboo formation that had evolved into a Zhou Su galaxy and revealed monstrous killing intent, all of their faces were filled with shock and even reverence. Just looking at it from afar was enough to make their hair stand on end. It was easy to imagine how terrifying the killing tribulations would be if they were trapped inside. After we kill them, we'll collect all their belongings. I want to know their identities, origins, and objectives. In front of a majestic palace in the Great Dao Palace of 10,000 dragons, Emperor Ruo Su's expression was cold, and his eyes were filled with hatred. Not only will I make them pay, but I will also wipe out all the forces behind them. Yes, that's right. Dragon Emperor Yin Feng and Star Demon Dragon Emperor gnashed their teeth. Lin Sun's group had killed their way into the Dragon Palace, stirring up a storm of blood, killing Ping Hai, Lan Shui, and several other old antiques. They were forced to hide in the Dao Dragon Palace and had no choice but to borrow the power of the taboo formation to protect their lives. This was undoubtedly too humiliating. If news of this were spread, their clan's dignity and prestige would be completely obliterated. They would become the laughingstock of the world. Moreover, if the Black Tortoise, White Tiger, Immortal Phoenix, and other innate spirit clans found out about this, it would very likely cause great trouble for them. Since time immemorial, our clan has never suffered such a blow and loss. Naturally, we won't let this matter rest. Just wait, those bastards won't be able to live for long. Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the other antiques revealed bloodthirsty and cold expressions. Suddenly, Emperor Ruoxu found something wrong at the first time. Lin Sun and his companions, who were trapped in the formation, had avoided the disasters again and again without any danger. Along the way, they didn't even put up any resistance or counterattack. They just moved forward under all kinds of attacks. Every time, when people thought that they were going to die, they would always be able to avert danger after danger. Dragon Emperor Ruo Su's eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets when he saw this scene. How is this possible? Yin Feng and Star Demon Dragon Emperor were also dumbfounded when they noticed this strange and unbelievable scene. What's going on? That was a forbidden formation that had existed since time immemorial. It possessed terrifying power that could kill an emperor ancestor, and until now, no one had been able to break it. But now, something unexpected had happened. For a time, Dragon Emperor Ruo Su and the others were shocked and furious, and their minds were in turmoil. How could this formation that was their lifeline of defense fail to trap their opponents? They couldn't understand this. No matter how experienced they were, no matter how many ups and downs they had experienced, they still couldn't understand the unbelievable scene before them. This forbidden formation was set up by our ancestors, and it is regarded as the fifth killing formation of all heavens. Since time immemorial, nothing like this has ever happened. Dragon Emperor Ruo Su's expression was uncertain. As for the experts that were scattered in other places, they still didn't understand what was happening in the formation. They were still excitedly waiting for the moment their opponents died. Boom! Suddenly, an earth-shattering change occurred in the formation. Countless mysterious Taoist formation diagrams emerged from the billions of galaxies in Zhou. Gradually, these Taoist formation diagrams condensed together and transformed into a figure. He was like a 7 or 8-year-old boy, wearing a starry feather robe, a starry rainbow crown, and starry boots. His little face was innocent, and his eyes were like a vortex of stars, deep, clear, and clean. As soon as he appeared, the entire formation seemed to have a rhythm of life, and it suddenly produced all kinds of unexpected changes. If it was said that the grand formation from before was evolving and operating according to some sort of rule and law, then the grand formation at this moment had no rule or law to speak of at all. It felt as if he was facing a living formation that had intelligence and could produce all kinds of incredible killing tribulations according to the situation. There was no law to follow. Almost as soon as the boy appeared, Lin Sun suddenly stopped, and a rare trace of seriousness appeared in his eyes. Formation spirit. In the past, when Lin Sun read the experience and notes left by Master Lu, he had also seen the records about formation spirit. According to Master Lu, when the Taoist pattern formation was developed to an unprecedented level, it would be able to seize the power of creation. With the power of heaven and earth as the source and the essence of all living things as the guide, it would condense a unique spiritual body called the formation spirit. Generally speaking, a great formation that possessed an array spirit was akin to possessing intelligence and life, and all changes would become untraceable. Such a formation could be called a deadly formation, and it could be called the most terrifying prohibition method in the world. This also meant that there was only one way to break the formation or get out of it. That was to defeat the formation spirit with the attainments of Taoist formation. And this was the first time that Lin Sun saw the formation spirit. You seem to be very familiar with all kinds of changes I control, so you can avoid all kinds of attacks and even wake me up from silence. The childlike spirit opened his mouth. His voice was clear and immature, and a pair of starry vortex-like eyes only stared at Lin Sun with curiosity. Wisps of starlight permeated his body, making him look extremely mysterious. He was like a baby of stars. She and Big Yellow revealed looks of surprise. Clearly, they did not expect such a miraculous and intelligent spiritual body like the array spirit to be born in such a large formation. When the formation spirit appeared in the outside world, Emperor Ruo Su and the other old-timers, who were still surprised and doubtful, all revealed ecstatic expressions. This was also the first time that they had seen the formation spirit in countless years. In the past, they had only heard that the forbidden formation that had protected their clan for thousands of years might have given birth to a formation spirit. But no one had seen it before. After all, there are only a few people in this world who could kill their way to the great way of the palace of all dragons, so it was impossible for them to have a chance to truly understand these things. How much longer can you resist now? Emperor Ruo Su and the others felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Cold smiles appeared on their cold faces. In the formation, Lin Sun looked at the childlike formation spirit calmly and said, "I am indeed very familiar with this formation. In recent years, I have been trying to understand the mystery of this formation. But I didn't expect that this formation has already condensed a spiritual body like you." The formation spirit frowned and thought for a moment. Then, he suddenly realized something and said, "Are you the successor of that bad old man?" What a bad old man. It was a hard description, but Lin Sun immediately realized that the formation spirit should be referring to Master Lu, because this forbidden formation that could kill the Emperor ancestor was the Tao Falling Heaven's Death formation deduced by Master Lu. The inheritance of this formation was given to him by Qing Ying when he was in the Dark Land. Although it was incomplete, its power was already more powerful than the lifeless killing formation, which was ranked 9th in all heavens. Now, a complete Tao Falling Heaven's Death formation was placed in front of Lin Sun, regarded as the lifeline of defense of the real dragon. P.S. Goldfish just got home and hasn't eaten yet. After eating, she will write the second chapter. So, of course, she couldn't stop updating today. Chapter 2337. Falling Tao and Dying Sky was the forbidden formation of the true dragon, which made Lin Sun's imagination run wild. Master Lu obtained the inheritance of 9 transformations of Calamity Dragon from the true dragon. Was the Falling Tao and Dying Sky the same? Could it be that Master Lu had once broken through the formation and successfully left? Through his memory, he figured out the core mystery of the formation of Tao Fall, Heaven Death. Just as Lin Sun was thinking, the childlike formation spirit suddenly said, "Do you dare to compete with me in terms of attainment in Taoist inscriptions?" Lin Sun said, "No matter whether you dare or not, the formation you control is doomed to be unable to stop me." I advise you to abandon evil and become good. Don't struggle needlessly." The child raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "Really? I like to see what tricks that old man has taught you." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, a nebula emerged and turned into a bottomless whirlpool. Countless stars were flowing in the depths of the whirlpool, releasing a terrifying and boundless devouring power that enveloped Lin Sun. Lin Sun stepped forward and waved his sleeves. A nebula whirlpool emerged, showing opposite rotating fluctuations. The terrifying Taoist inscriptions erupted like a volcano that had been silent for thousands of years. One devoured, and the other erupted. In an instant, a destructive scene of yin and yang colliding, fire and water repelling each other appeared, causing the void to explode. Turbulence splashed everywhere, twisting and collapsing. "You've begun to control the power of my formation." The child was surprised. Then he snorted and pointed at Lin Sun. Buzz! Countless star Taoist inscriptions condensed and turned into 100,000 star swords. They seemed to crush the starry sky and rushed forward with a rumble. Lin Sun didn't dodge, and his eyes were suffused with an obscure and profound light as he suddenly punched out. Instantly, the Zhou void overturned as a myriad of stars converged into the force of this punch, and then it crushed towards the 100,000 star swords with the force of a landslide and a tsunami. An earth-shattering explosion resounded. Countless Taoist inscriptions surged like waves and then disappeared. The starry sky was shaken. Again, the child shouted. He had a unique wisdom, so he could control the formation as if it was his own arm. It showed all kinds of incredible changes, and its power was unbelievably strong. She and Big Yellow, who were watching from a distance, showed grave expressions. They now deeply understood how terrifying a unique life form like the formation spirit was. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that even an emperor ancestor would find it difficult to resist such a slaughter. At this moment, Lin Sun wasn't fighting with brute force. He was also manipulating the power of the formation, countering every move and showing extraordinary attainments in spiritual tattoos. For a time, the glow of the Tao within the grand formation surged like tidewater while rumbling like thunder, and signs of destruction and destruction appeared everywhere. Numerous stars exploded while numerous Tao marking formations collapsed into pieces, and it seemed as if a world-shocking battle of annihilation was being carried out here. Again, 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 the formation spirit's roar constantly resounded, and it was filled with unwillingness and resolution. The power of the formation that he controlled became even more terrifying. But no matter how it changed, Lin Sun could always find the flaws and resist and disintegrate them one by one with his attainments in Tao patterns. After studying the formation of falling Tao and dying sky for many years, he had already understood all its mysteries in his heart. Although the formation of falling Tao and dying sky left by Master Lu was incomplete, it was a kind of extreme deduction process, and he had already thoroughly understood the core mystery of the formation. What was missing was nothing more than some changes and killing power of the formation. Under such circumstances, Lin Sun was not so much fighting as verifying and figuring out the various changes of the formation through the means of the formation of falling Tao and dying sky. Even if he suffered a fatal threat, Lin Sun, who had mastered the core mystery of the formation, could find and break it. As time went by, the formation spirit's little face tightened and he frowned. He exerted all his strength, but still couldn't do anything to Lin Sun. Why isn't it over yet? Emperor Roxu and others were secretly anxious. There were too many changes in the formation, and the power released was also extremely terrifying, so they couldn't see the unparalleled battle that was taking place in it. But there was one thing they could still be sure of, and that was that after the formation spirit appeared, it couldn't kill those opponents immediately. They almost couldn't believe it. This is impossible. Even the Emperor Ancestor would die if he was trapped in the forbidden formation of our tribe. How could there be so many accidents? Star Demon Dragon Emperor's eyes widened in anger. The Emperor ancestor might die, but there's a kind of person who can't be trapped even with this formation. Dragon Emperor Roaxu's voice was dry. He seemed to have thought of something, and his expression was exceptionally gloomy. Impossible. Suddenly, Dragon Emperor Yongfeng seemed to have thought of something as well, and he was flustered and exasperated. There is only one Lu Boya in this world. How could there be a second one? Lu Boya. Star Demon Dragon Emperor was stunned when he heard this name. He seemed to have suddenly understood, and his expression turned hideous. Could that young man be the successor of Lu Boya? Actually, we should have guessed his identity a long time ago. Dragon Emperor Roaxu's expression became increasingly gloomy, except for that little bastard who tarnished our dragon girl Jing Xian, who would have the guts to sneak into our tribe and cause trouble. When Ao Jintian brought Zhao Jingxian back, the entire clan knew that Zhao Jingxian grew up in the lower world, Xiao Empire. When they learned that Zhao Jingxian was pregnant, the old antiques especially asked Zhao Jingxian and Ao Jintian about Lin Sun. Naturally, they also knew that Lin Sun not only mastered the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon, but also was raised by Lu Boya. To the entire bloodline of the true dragon, Lu Boya was definitely a name that they hated deeply. He was an enemy that they couldn't wait to skin and eat alive. It was because of some information about Lin Sun that the bloodline of the true dragon made an extremely decisive decision to sink the path to the starry sky ancient path in order to eliminate all hidden dangers so that Zhao Jingxian and the child in her belly could only stay in the bloodline of the true dragon for the rest of their lives and could no longer have any connection with Lin Sun. But none of them expected that in just a few decades, Lin Sun would come looking for them. Moreover, as a peerless great emperor, he killed all the way to the great dragon palace. It's this little bastard. Yin Feng and the Star Demon Dragon Emperor's expressions were extremely livid. When they finally understood Lin Sun's identity, they also realized what Lin Sun was going to do. If I had known earlier, I would have immediately gone to the starry sky ancient path after the gathering of 10,000 dragon immortals came to an end and completely erased this kid. The Star Demon Dragon Emperor gritted his teeth, full of hatred. It was not only because Lin Sun was the successor of Lu Boya, nor was it because he mastered the 9 changes of Calamity Dragon, a taboo inheritance belonging to the bloodline of the true dragon. More importantly, Lin Sun was the father of the child in Zhao Jingshuan's belly. Boom! At this moment, an earth-shattering explosion resounded. In the formation, the childlike formation spirit let out an unwilling scream. It turns out that the old man has already secretly learned the core mystery of the formation. Before he could finish speaking, he was grabbed by Lin Sun's hand and stuffed into the Great Way, without in tower like a fresh radish. With this formation spirit, it was equivalent to mastering the complete form of the Fallen Tao formation. In the future, as long as the formation spirit presided over the formation, it would be equivalent to having a great killing weapon that could kill the ancestors of the emperors. However, the resources and divine materials needed to set up the formation were destined to be beyond what Lin Sun could provide. It was too huge. For example, the bloodline of the true dragon could only operate such a large formation with the source energy of the Dragon Palace's world. One could imagine how huge the resources needed to set up the formation would be. Oh no! At the same time, the alarmed dragon Emperor Ra Su and the other old antiques were so shocked that their scalps went numb, and their expressions changed drastically. However, before they could react, she and Big Yellow, who had been waiting for a long time, had already teleported to the Great Way Dragon Palace. Without the protection of the Fallen Tao formation, the huge Great Way Dragon Palace was equivalent to taking off its sturdiest shell. It was like an empty shell, and it could no longer stop she and Big Yellow. Rumble. In an instant, the battle suddenly broke out. She did not show any mercy, and Big Yellow was even more furious. As soon as he attacked, he launched a thunderous attack. Puff! In an instant, she stabbed out with a lawless spear and killed the severely injured Star Demon Dragon Emperor. His throat exploded, and then his body and spirit exploded together. Blood splattered everywhere. The lawless saber in Big Yellow's claws was also terrifyingly sharp. It caused Dragon Emperor Yongfeng to be heavily injured, and he kept retreating. Soon, he was covered in blood and was in a desperate situation. Although Dragon Emperor Su was in the 9th stage of the Emperor realm, he was firmly suppressed by Shi and was in a very passive position. His old face was distorted, and he kept roaring. Lin Sun did not care about this. After rushing out of the formation, he rushed into the Great Way Dragon Palace with Xie Ji. At this stage of the battle, the patriarch of the true dragon tribe, Ao Huanhai, still had not shown himself. This gave Lin Sun a vague premonition. "Stop him!" Dragon Emperor Ruo Su roared, and his voice reverberated through the heavens. When the experts who had been watching from afar saw that the taboo formation, which they regarded as their last line of defense, had been broken, they were shocked to the point of losing their minds and falling into a daze. They didn't dare to believe that all of this was real. At this moment, when Dragon Emperor Ruo Su shouted, they suddenly came to their senses. Their expressions changed drastically, and they rushed into the Great Way Dragon Palace without hesitation. This was the core of the true dragon tribe, and it represented the supreme authority and dignity of their tribe. How could they allow an outsider to enter? However, very few people noticed that even though those revered elders who served the true dragon bloodline were also charging forward, deep in their hearts, they were all incomparably excited. Their hearts were filled with admiration and shock. A young man whom they thought would not survive had actually broken the true dragon tribe's last line of defense. This was an unprecedented miracle. As long as this young man was alive, it was a chance for them and the tribe behind them to change their fate. Still there,